Chapter 361, We Will Reward You. By night, the Golden Summit was ablaze with lights. Thanks to the self-strengthening movement, the areas around the Imperial City already had electricity, even the mountains could use electric lights. This type of lighting, free of oil smoke and with even brightness, was quickly beloved by the wealthy once it was introduced. At this moment, Bai Lu gazed at the beautiful woman in the mirror, illuminated by the bright light. Women who practiced martial arts generally had little excess fat and were usually in good shape, but there were still levels of distinction. What everyone competed in were the four qualities one is born with, which martial arts could not change: narrow shoulders, large breasts, round buttocks, long legs. Bai Lu possessed all four attributes and was brimming with confidence as she silently encouraged herself. Liu Yao is a grand master, it's perfectly normal for him to have 3 wives and 4 concubines. There's nothing wrong with offering myself. Don't hold any animosity towards those 3 women, but try to integrate and become part of the family. It's beneficial for both oneself and the sect. Then she stood up, her Taoist robe tailored to fit more closely to her body, giving off a sense of uniform temptation. Brimming with confidence, Bai Lu swayed as she walked out of the courtyard. In the guest room, Liu Yao slept with only Liao Qi. That good thing had only happened once. Afterward, the younger sisters felt shy and never did it again. And the most resistant was actually Li Pei, who was quite open-minded, but firmly refused. At this moment, Liu Yao was undressing Liao Qi with his thoughts, letting her creamy skin slowly reveal itself under the light. The girl giggled and said, "That tickles your mind force, feels so cool." Liu Yao was a diligent man, never missing any opportunity to practice his cultivation, attending to the girl's dressing and undressing without complaint, even helping her with her shoes and socks. Phew, this kind of delicate task is actually more tiring. His thoughts could send stones weighing dozens of pounds flying through the air, but removing a few pieces of clothing left him sweating profusely. Tomorrow, I need to ask Zhou He about the flying sword and entrusting one's mind force. Although he had a complete knowledge base, learning from books is shallow after all, it's more straightforward to ask someone with experience. Just as he was about to turn off the lights and get down to business, Liao Qi stopped him. "Don't, I want to watch you." "Okay then," Liu Yao had no objections. As they were about to make love, Liao Qi spoke again, "This is someone else's guest room, it's not good to make a mess. Maybe we should just stand instead." "All right, whatever you wish." The gentleman was considerate. Liao Qi felt blissful and cooed. "Today you really made us proud." The 7 disciples of Wu Dang, especially that Taoist nun Bai Lu, were totally stunned. Such envious looks, ah! Liao Qi was grateful for her beloved's care and thus welcomed him ardently in return. "Who knows when I'll be able to give you a baby? You've reached the innate level, the higher one's realm in the martial path, the harder it is to have offspring. We can only leave it to fate. No hurry, we still have a good 200 years of life." Their conversation had barely ended when the door suddenly opened, and Li Pei walked in with Liao Ye. Liao Ye was all flushed and kept her head down without speaking. Li Pei acted nonchalant. "You performed well today, we've come to reward you." Bai Lu arrived near the guest room's grove of trees, gracefully taking the guqin from her back. After all, as a member of a respectable sect, she couldn't be too direct in expressing love, so she delicately played a tune of Immortal of the Magpie Bridge. Anyone with a bit of sense would understand her intention. But something strange happened. Bai Lu played the piece twice and still saw no sign of movement from the residents. "That's not right, even if it's a rejection, one should come out and say something." The mountain wind grew colder, and Bai Lu, still too young and impatient, jumped onto a tree to take a look. "Could I be blocked from entering by those 3 women? If that's the case, I'll go straight in and argue. It's clearly stated in the Great Shun Warrior Code that a Grand Master is entitled to 3 wives and 4 concubines." With confusion, she peered intently ahead and nearly fell out of the tree the next second. Although the sight was blurry and unclear, Bai Lu was certain that she saw something. Born into a prestigious, orthodox family and priding herself on purity, her worldview was shattered at this moment, and she stumbled back clutching her zither. When she passed by the sect leader's room, she almost ran into Zhang Yunchu. "Bai Lu, what's the matter?" "I have seen the master, there's nothing wrong, just a bit tired and wish to rest early." Zhang Yunchu was unconcerned and inquired. "Based on what you saw today, Liu Yao is indeed a suitable match. If he takes care of you, I will be more at ease, and our sect would gain a strong ally." If you are interested, as your master, I'll go propose the marriage tomorrow. Zhang Yuncha was pleased with the prospect. He had arranged the previous visit to Jin Garden to send a message. But Bai Lu's face changed upon hearing this, and she quickly responded, "Please, no, master. The outside world is too dangerous, I would rather stay within the sect." Zhang Yuncha didn't know what had happened, but it wasn't his place to pry into young people's business, so he simply sighed, "Your master doesn't insist, as long as you are happy." Bai Lu nodded and hurried back to her room. At this moment, her mind was in turmoil. I tried to fit in with them, but they are truly excellent. Actually, Liu Yao had sensed Bai Lu's presence and heard her zither earlier on. He simply didn't have time to attend to her. It could only be said that the young lady had picked the wrong time. After a pleasant night, the next morning Liu Yao went to seek advice from Zhou He about flying sword and mind force. Upon reaching the old Taoist's residence, he saw him controlling a half-meter-long short blade resembling a triangular spike, dancing and flying around the yard. Seeing Liu Yao, he greeted with a smile, "Please come in, young friend Liu." His voice was somewhat hoarse and strange. At this moment, Zhou He was not using mind force to vibrate the air to produce sound, but was actually speaking himself. Liu Yao asked in surprise, "Daoist, have you taken the life creation pill and recovered?" Zhou He nodded, smiling, "Yes, but it will take a while before I'm completely healed. Due to my previous physical deficiency, I couldn't advance to the innate level, but with this pill, my body can recover." Continue reading on novelbin.com. I see. Young friend Liu, you have once again assisted me greatly, please accept my bow of gratitude. The old Taoist showed sincere gratitude as he bowed deeply. Liu Yao quickly supported him, "Let's not dwell on formalities between us, if you want to thank me, just teach me well about flying sword and mind force." The old Daoist laughed, "That's an easy thing." With that said, he gestured for the triangular spike to fly over, directing it to thrust into a stone roller used for body tempering. The air was filled with screeching sounds, as if crossbows were firing in unison, causing stone chips from the roller to fly everywhere. At the outer body realm, wielding a flying sword is about as effective as wielding a sharp blade at the organ refining realm, even unable to scratch the skin of a blood exchange mirror. Thus, the might of a flying sword entirely depends on a breath of innate true qi. After speaking, the old Daoist had the triangular spike hover in front of Liu Yao. Liu Yao stretched out his hand and infused it with innate true qi. This strange life energy caused the triangular spike to flash with cold light, becoming razor sharp, and transformed it from an ordinary iron to a divine weapon. The old Daoist controlled it to strike the stone roller again. This time, the triangular spike easily pierced through it. The stone roller weighed 1 ton, and the pierced section was half a meter thick. The power of the flying sword was more formidable than an anti-material sniper rifle, or even a cannon. Zhou He said, "As you can see, one must reach both the innate and the outer body realms to fully unleash the power of the flying sword. That's also why this old Daoist is eager for a breakthrough. Without innate true qi, the power of the flying sword is indeed too weak." Zhou He gave Liu Yao a triangular spike. "This is a new style flying sword I created myself based on Western principles of mechanics. Give it a try." Chapter 362, Flying Sword and Wish Power. Controlling a flying sword is a bit like learning to ride a bicycle, only difficult at the very beginning. Liu Yao, curious, took over the triangle flying sword and began to control it with his thoughts. The flying sword sprang to life, hovering sharply in midair, and then swiftly dancing around. The sharp whistling sounds of it slicing through the air filled the courtyard. The flying speed was about 100 meters per second, reminiscent of a strong crossbow, but much slower than Zhou He's. Zhou He immediately offered pointers. In the past, the tricks to using flying swords relied on the spirit refiners themselves to figure out. Later, Western learning prevailed, and people discovered that many principles of mechanics could be applied to the control of flying swords. For example, the Navier-Stokes equations, Prandtl-Glauert singularity, Bernoulli's principle, and so on. It was a time of opening one's eyes to the world, and the martial artists of the Shun dynasty were the first to discover that many principles of mechanics could make themselves stronger. Zhou He, who had once studied abroad, was especially knowledgeable in this area. He combined the flying sword control techniques handed down from his ancestors with Western fluid mechanics, explaining in a simple and understandable way that was thought-provoking. Liu Yao listened, nodding repeatedly in awe of the old Daoist's profound knowledge. However, all this knowledge was from the 19th century. Moreover, he thought, Blue Star had even more advanced knowledge of fluid mechanics and aerodynamics. The next time he went back, he could bring it along and let the old deist study it in detail, which would surely lead to another breakthrough. Next, Liu Yao once again controlled the sword. After receiving pointers from Zhou He, the speed of the flying sword increased significantly. Streaks of silver light rapidly danced around Liu Yao, forming a continuous blur. The breaking sound of extreme speed indicated the flying sword had reached a speed of 150 meters per second, a tremendous increase visible to the naked eye. Afterward, Liu Yao made the flying sword hover in front of him and brushed it with a hand, infusing it with innate true qi. The triangle flying sword instantly flashed with a cold light, transforming from common iron into a divine weapon, cold and sharp. With a mere thought, the flying sword instantly flew out, and under the enhancement of innate true qi, it reached a speed of 200 meters per second, easily penetrating through the stone roller. The stone roller was made of granite and was more than half a meter thick. To pierce through it showed the power of the flying sword. Liu Yao then controlled the flying sword to repeatedly drill through the stone roller, reducing it to rubble, with the true qi on the flying sword completely exhausted. Zhou He kept nodding, not bad at all, such power can indeed serve as a trump card. Liu Yao was also very satisfied. Now he had a portable, powerful and precise means of long-range attack, and it was also very stylish. After teaching about the flying sword, next was mind resonance. Zhou He said. The brain consists of tens of thousands of neurons, and brain waves are unique signals produced by the activity of these neurons. What is called mind resonance is essentially allowing one's thoughts, or brain waves, to attach to an object. The resonance item should not be made of metals or stones, but should be soft objects made from plants, such as straw, wood, paper, cloth, and so on. And it's best to make them in the shape of a person or an animal, so the infused mind force can last for a month without dissipating. Speaking of which, Zhou He also charged the 1,000 paper cranes he gave to Liu Yao with mind force for long-term use and demonstrated how to perform mind resonance on the spot. Liu Yao followed the example and summoned several crimson maple leaves. The maple leaves wove themselves together midair into a fiery bird, the vermilion bird. Then, Liu Yao attached a thread of thought to it, completing his unique otherworld version of a cell phone. Giving it to Zhou He, Liu Yao leaped away to a distance and started communicating with Zhou He through this device. Deist Zhou, can you hear me? I can hear you, very clearly. This was mind communication, and Liu Yao found it fascinating. By focusing his attention, he could even see the surrounding scenery through the mind resonance item. Right now, Deist Zhou was holding the vermilion bird in front of his face with both hands. Liu Yao looked at the other's face, feeling as if he were on a video call. Zhou He laughed, human thought is a miraculous thing, and brainwaves have their own unique rhythms that can effortlessly traverse thousands of mountains and rivers, as if bordering the horizon. Moreover, mind resonance is not only useful for communication, but the operation distance for flying swords is also closely related to it. After achieving perfection in astral projection, one can destroy the enemy's leaders from 100 kilometers away. That's amazing. I can only operate within a 10-kilometer range right now. It seems I still have a long way to go. Liu, my friend, you've just broken through, no need to rush. You should come back first. Next, I must discuss with you the matter of the power of collective will in detail. Liu Yao nodded in agreement and returned to Zhou He's courtyard in a few leaps and bounds. Liu Yao had witnessed firsthand the effects of the power of collective will during the longevity banquet, which could be used to break through to the divine manifestation realm. Zhou He advised. The power of collective will is also a unique kind of brainwave. After astral projection, one can absorb this power for cultivation. Therefore, if we were to aggressively collect the power of collective will, we would certainly be suspected by the imperial court. Liu Yao nodded, aware of this issue as well. The imperial court and spirit refiners above the astral projection realm could be said to have a love-hate relationship. While the court wished to use them, it was also deeply suspicious of them. If someone could gather the willpower of 1 million believers, they would have the capital to start a rebellion. Grandmaster Hong Ronkin of the Great Vehicle sect had done just that, destroying several provinces upon his call to arms and collecting the willpower of his followers to force Grandmaster Zhang to jump into the river. Should the believers continue to grow beyond 10 million, the very throne might be at stake. Zhou He continued thoughtfully, I don't plan to follow the path of the power of collective will. This approach is too sinister, and it's very easy to lose oneself after being washed over by this power. Countless spirit refiners in history have twisted their minds beyond recognition. Then, does Daoist plan to cultivate on his own? Indeed, I plan to use my own power to gradually cultivate up to divine manifestation. Liu Yao nodded thoughtfully, unable to say whether Zhou He's chosen path was right or wrong. Read new chapters at novelbin.com. For Liu Yao, Blue Star held billions of willing powers, it would indeed be a pity not to use them. But there were definite risks involved. The emotions and wills of sentient beings are varied, with reverence and worship as well as resentment and hatred. The so-called toxicity in the incense refers to this. I need to return to try out the power of collective will. I can try collecting willpower on Blue Star and bring it to the other world to use. I wonder if crossing between worlds could filter out the toxicity in the incense. Subsequently, the two exchanged insights on the practices of possession after the manipulation of objects. Liu Yao deliberately shared many contents of the Scripture of Enlightenment through hard work with Zhou He, which were crucial summaries made by Grandmaster Hong Ronkin during his cultivation, extremely beneficial. Zhou He, intentionally or otherwise, divulged some of the Wudang sect's ancestral experiences. Their exchange was beneficial for both of them. At that moment, Liu Yao looked up and saw that it was around 8 o'clock in the morning, just the right time to pay a visit to an elder. He then bid farewell to Zhou He, planning to take the life creation pill to visit Elder Zhou. Lately, Elder Zhou had been busy with the business of establishing provinces in the western frontier and was running around in the capital. I'll give the elixirs to Elder Zhou, and then I'll hurry back to Blue Star for a visit to try out the power of collective will. Chapter 363, Deliver the Pill. Back in the guest room, the three sisters had just returned from their morning exercise. It was deep autumn, and the mountains were aflame with maple leaves in a riot of colors. They had picked many with extraordinary hues. In her hand, Li Pei was carefully cradling a night-blooming cereus, nurturing it with her inner breath to prevent it from wilting. Liu Yao said with a smile, "You're back just in time. Here, let me show you something fun." He beckoned with his hand, and as he focused his thoughts, the colorful leaves in the girl's hands began to levitate. With the three maidens looking on in curiosity, Liu Yao closed his eyes and concentrated. The vivid plants combined of their own accord, transforming into various small animals that each landed in the sisters' fair palms. Liao Qi received a yellow piglet, Liao Ye, a red vermilion bird, and Li Pei, a white tiger made from the night-blooming cereus. These animals were lifelike, each possessing a charmingly naive aspect of Q-version cuteness. These are mind resonance items of mine from now on, we can use them to communicate. You just need to maintain them daily with a bit of inner breath. Wow, this is so much fun. The toys imbued with their husband's essence were much beloved by the three women, who clasped them to their faces, unable to put them down. Unaware of the implications, Li Pei played with hers for a good while before carefully placing it near her chest to keep safe. Next, Liu Yao planned to take the whole family to visit Master Zhou. However, Li Pei indicated that she couldn't join them. "My lord, my commandery princess title has been restored, I need to visit the Imperial Palace and the Clan Affairs Bureau." With the household's growing prosperity, the Imperial Court would naturally want to extend its goodwill. It was the proper thing to do. Liu Yao nodded, "Is that so? How about I accompany you?" Li Pei hurriedly declined, "There's no need, it would be too much trouble for you. The social niceties would waste your time. I can go by myself." Actually, she also had to visit the Ministry of Rights to finalize the matters of her three wives, so she didn't want Liu Yao to follow. Liu Yao was always generous towards his sisters, so he had no objections. However, with the Righteous Harmony Society stirring trouble, the streets weren't very safe. It was better for Li Pei to have a means of self-defense when going out. Liu Yao took out the triangle flying sword, infusing it with a substantial amount of innate true qi, ensuring that even if it dissipated slowly, it could be maintained for half a day. He then handed it to Li Pei, saying, "If you encounter danger, contact me through the White Tiger, and I will control the sword from afar." "Got it," Li Pei accepted joyously, highly appreciating her husband's care. And so, they all set off separately, each busy with their own affairs. Learning that Liu Yao was going out, the Wudang sect enthusiastically lent a car. All three were happy to save effort and drove towards Imperial City. As the capital of the Shun dynasty, Imperial City was naturally bustling with activity. The streets, closely lined with blue-bricked and tiled houses, were packed with endless traffic and jostling crowds. Shop assistants under their own advertising banners called out to beckon customers in an endless chorus of cries. Traveling under archways, the car wheels on the cobblestone pavement caused a bit of bumpiness. At this moment, the road ahead was blocked. Liu Yao glanced and saw that the congestion was caused by the government office handling foreign affairs, the Prime Minister's office. Many foreigners were arguing fiercely there, apparently embroiled in a dispute. Without needing to inquire, Liu Yao concentrated and could make out what they were arguing about just by listening. After listening for a while, he turned back and said, "The Righteous Harmony Society's troubles are escalating. There have been cases of attacks on foreign missionaries in Imperial City. The foreign ministers are in a panic, wanting to increase the number of guards at the embassies, but the Imperial Court won't allow too many, so a dispute erupted and reached the Prime Minister's office." Liaoya said, "The Imperial Court is unexpectedly firm this time, perhaps because it thinks the foreign powers are too busy with the war to pay attention here." Liu Yao furrowed his brow. With the Righteous Harmony Society's upheaval concurrent with World War I, would the Eight-Nation Alliance still exist? The powers that suffered heavy losses in trench warfare, can they still organize wars of aggression? Or are they, like Rakshasas, eager to pounce and bite back to recover their strength? Shaking his head to dismiss the doubts, Liu Yao said, "Hold tight, I'm going to jump over." He climbed out of the car window, hoisted the car up, and with a powerful leap, he soared over the congested entrance of the government office. Landing smoothly, the two sisters sitting in the car hardly felt any jolts. Liaoya praised, "Junior brother's ability to mitigate force and turn energy is even more exquisite now." Liu Yao laughed, "Ha, it's all thanks to the excellent teaching of two beautiful masters." The sisters remembered the time they had all practiced together and couldn't help but smile knowingly. Liu Yao clapped his hands, set the car down, and continued on his way amidst cries of surprise and cheers. The three arrived at Zitangza Hutong in the East District, where the residence of Zhou Gongzheng was located, an elegant Saihewan environment. Before getting out of the car, Liaoya went to the gatehouse and presented a visiting card bearing Yunzhou Liu Yao. The middle-aged gatekeeper's expression tightened when he saw the card. He gave a salutary bow and then hurried to report it. In a moment, the main gate of the courtyard flung open, and Zhou Xiaoyi, the son of Zhou Gongzheng himself, came out to greet them. "Grandmaster Liu, true person Liu, long time no see. Congratulations on your breakthrough. Just a stroke of luck, young Master Zhou remains as distinguished as ever, a joyous occasion indeed." Although their meetings had been few, the good rapport between them lessened the need for formalities and they laughed and talked their way inside. Currently, many were waiting for an audience with Zhou Gongzheng, so many that the gatehouse could not accommodate them, and a lot were standing outside. Seeing Liu Yao evidently cutting the line, they showed no discontent, as if it were only right and proper. Zhou Xiaoyi led Liu Yao and his companions to the study, where Zhou Gongzheng was awaiting them. Liu Yao and the others hurriedly paid their respects. "We pay our respects to Zhou Gongzheng. Liu Yao has come." Zhou Gongzheng folded up a memorial he was reading and smiled contentedly. "Not long after we parted in the western frontier, you've made another breakthrough, truly a force to be reckoned with. Spirit refinement truly depends on opportunity, I was merely fortunate." Liu Yao said modestly. But just seeing the crowd of people waiting in the courtyard indicated how busy Zhou Gongzheng was, so it wouldn't be fitting to waste too much of his time. He directly took out a jade bottle containing the life creation pill and presented it with both hands. "This is an elixir that I refined together with friends from the Wudang sect. I hope it proves useful to you." Zhou Gongzheng took it and smelled it, and was immediately taken aback, seemingly not expecting it to be such a valuable elixir. He looked deeply at Liu Yao and said, "The life creation pill. You are considerate." To him, this pill could extend his life by 7 or 8 years, which was no small favor. At this point, Liu Yao could actually take the opportunity to make some requests, which Zhou Gongzheng would likely have agreed to. But Liu Yao wasn't there to seek any favors, he had simply wanted to lend a hand to this late-in-life hero. Moreover, he was still preoccupied with the billions of willpower from Blue Star. He took the opportunity to bid farewell. "The elixir is delivered, and you are busy with official matters, so I won't impose any further. I wish for everything to proceed smoothly with your province governances." After Liu Yao left, Zhou Gongzheng stared at the precious elixir in his hand for a long time in silence. Zhou Xiaoyi remarked emotionally, "A sincere heart of a loyal subject, he truly is a person worth befriending. His diligence is renowned worldwide, so much so that it's said even the holy maiden of the joyful sect has been refused by him." Zhou Gongzheng showed an appreciative expression, "He is the foremost young prodigy of our time, you should earnestly learn from him. Don't squander your time in idle pursuits. Find more to read at novelbin.com. The reputation of Liu Yao, wholly devoted to the martial path, neglecting the pleasures of love and companionship, had already spread to the imperial city. Chapter 364, Fanatical Believer. Liu Yao, leading the Liao family's sisters, strode out of the residence with heads held high. Approaching the gate, they ran into an acquaintance, Dong Fuxiang, a military leader of the Western Expedition Army they had met in the western frontier. The well-built Dong Fuxiang was the first to greet with a clasped fist salute. "Grandmaster Liu, what a coincidence, you've also come to pay a visit to Zhou Gong." As an old subordinate of Zhou Gong, his presence here was not surprising. "Commander Dong, you've been transferred to the Imperial City." "Yes, I've been ordered to station here to guard against any mischief from the Westerners." Dong Fuxiang behaved openly, as if there was nothing he couldn't discuss, not treating Liu Yao as an outsider. However, he led one of the main forces of the Western Expedition Army, and the Imperial Court recalling this capable military force indicated strengthening the defenses of the Imperial City. It was to guard against foreigners as well as the Boxers. After exchanging a few cordial words, the two bid each other farewell. Liu Yao asked Liao Qi to drive, while he focused his mind on Li Pei's white tiger to see how her matters were being handled. But his divine sense couldn't penetrate, as if the signal was being blocked. "It seems she's in the Imperial Palace, Li Pei must be having an audience with the Emperor." The core area within the Imperial City was shielded by a formation laid by the renowned Zhang Jingxiu of the former dynasty, which could block spirit refining abilities. This individual was also an ancestor of Zhang Yunqiu, hence Zhang Yunqiu was equally well versed in formations, a secret of Wudang not passed down to outsiders. At this moment, Li Pei was in an audience with Emperor Yong'an. The cousins each maintained a stern face, not given to smiles, their every word and action showing the fine bearing of the imperial family, yet overly frosty. Emperor Yong'an seemed unenthusiastic, uttering only a few perfunctory phrases before dismissing Li Pei. Though he appeared indifferent, he ordered his trusted eunuch, Cao Liankei, to escort Li Pei out of the palace personally. "Commandery Princess, the Emperor cannot write Li twice in one stroke. Ever since he took the reins of power, he has been thinking of restoring your title, and look, it's finally happened." Eunuch Cao prattled on, zealously promoting his master's interests. Li Pei responded half-heartedly. In truth, she no longer cared about the title of Commandery Princess. After being with Liu Yao, she had seen so many wonders and was filled with great expectations for the future. The ultimate goal of the old Li Pei was at most reaching the innate realm. But now, the innate realm was just a minor objective. With a husband like Liu Yao, she might even glimpse the profound mysteries of the golden body realm. The so-called power and riches now seemed laughable. Upon leaving the palace, she encountered the Empress Dowager, returning from enjoying the imperial garden. The beautiful woman in palace attire had recovered from her injuries. Her face was expressionless, yet she seemed to be smiling, as if mocking. It sent shivers down the spine. Eunuch Cao quickly knelt at the side of the road, not even daring to breathe heavily. Li Pei paid her respects with a deep curtsy, her eyes cast down, yet her body was tense. Her husband had thoroughly deceived the Empress Dowager, so she felt a bit nervous at the moment. The Empress Dowager seemed genuinely interested in her for a moment. Li Pei felt like a rabbit glanced at by a tiger and was scared witless, her spirit-refining perception triggering a very bad premonition. She was also perplexed. The Empress Dowager's gaze held a greedy, desirous look. Such a look she had only ever seen in men. Li Pei was aware of her allure to the opposite sex, but why would the Empress Dowager? At that intensely nervous moment, the Empress Dowager noticed the hint of sensuality in Li Pei's eyes. With that seductive demeanor, one could tell she was a woman who enjoyed her nights. The Empress Dowager seemed to lose interest instantly and left straight away. Li Pei finally exhaled a deep breath of relief. Eunuch Cao did not bother to speak further, hastily escorting Li Pei out of the palace. After leaving the palace, feeling anxious and fearful, Li Pei took out the little white tiger from her bosom and tapped it lightly 3 times. The white tiger instantly came to life. "Pai Pei, I couldn't contact you just now, are you all right?" "I'm fine. My lord, are you done with your tasks? Can you come pick me up? I'll be there immediately." Liu Yao took less than 5 minutes to dash over to Li Pei like lightning. Li Pei smiled sweetly like a blossoming flower, happily getting into the car. "Did everything go smoothly?" "Very smoothly, my title has been restored. Let's go home." That's great. Tonight I'll have to savor the commandery princess's delights. Li Pei couldn't help but roll her eyes at her husband, but his teasing dispelled her lingering anxiety. After the family left, within the imperial palace, Emperor Yong'an went to pay his respects to the Empress Dowager. Logically, after playing the role of a puppet for nearly 20 years, Emperor Yong'an should have wished for the Empress Dowager to pass away soon. Yet he came to greet her punctually every day, inquiring after her well-being with the utmost concern. Your son pays his respects to the Empress Dowager. Today was another routine act of courtesy, but Emperor Yong'an performed it with exceptional diligence, not a single motion out of place. According to past habit, the Empress Dowager would now wave her hand impatiently, signaling him to leave. But this time, the Empress Dowager actually spoke. The Emperor has been coming more diligently, she said with a smile. Is it because Zhang Wenda and Zheng Bohan are again pushing for a constitutional monarchy? Emperor Yong'an's expression stiffened, and for a long while, he said nothing. After a year of ruling on his own, he sadly discovered he was still a puppet. His decrees couldn't even leave the imperial city, and on the court, there were hardly a few who looked at him with respect. Zhang Wenda and Zheng Bohan were pushing for a constitutional monarchy, struggling for power and benefit. Even the left officials were concerned only with managing the western frontier and ignored his well-being. The Empress Dowager's expression revealed she understood everything, and she slowly said. After you took actual control, you played the balancing act, drawing in Commander Yuan Datu and weakening Zhang and Zheng. Then you tried to curry favor with me. You thought you could please everybody and create a balance to gradually enhance your own power. Indeed, it was a clever move. She paused for a moment, then scoffed. But, Emperor, in this world, power is always the most respected at any time. The so-called righteousness and legal succession are nothing but fig leaves. You, a mere blood exchange realm emperor, what is the use of having an imperial title? Moving among us, you're like a laughingstock, a buffoon, an object of ridicule. Her words stabbed into Emperor Yong'an's heart like a steel knife. An emperor with only the blood exchange realm ability wasn't even qualified to be a puppet. But the most painful revelation was yet to come. The Empress Dowager lazily waved her hand and said, Enough, your mother is tired. You may leave now. Also, you needn't come to pay your respects anymore, I do not wish to waste any more time on you. This son shall take his leave. The truth is often hard to accept. Eunuch Cao, the trusted eunuch, quickly steadied the dazed Emperor Yong'an and briskly left. At this moment, Liu Yao was experimenting with the power of collective will, as described in the scripture of enlightenment through hard work, with his 3 sisters. Offerings are toxic, and it certainly wouldn't be safe to directly contact the billions from Blue Star, so it was necessary to test with trusted people first. Liu Yao asked his 3 sisters to form a triangle around him and said, Now, think of me with all your heart. Only think of my good qualities, don't dwell on nonsense. The 3 women chided him, What's good about you, you big lecher? Scumbag. Pervert. Liu Yao laughed and said, Stop messing around, you must think of something good. I will be supervising, and anyone who doesn't think well of me will be severely punished tonight. The 3 women closed their eyes and thought wholeheartedly of their man, similar to praying in front of a divine statue. They might have spoken those words, but their hearts were filled with only the good things their husband brought them. Of course, they couldn't even think of anything bad. Liu Yao immediately opened his heavenly eye at the center of his forehead and allowed his divine soul to leave his body and float 3 feet above his head. Slowly, he sensed 3 strands of mysterious energy converging towards him, the will of the 3 women. Ordinarily, this so-called power of collective will needs to affect over 10,000 people to slightly influence the real world. The willpower of 3 people should have been extremely faint, not even enough to impact an ant, and even heavenly eye shouldn't have been able to see it. But at this moment, Liu Yao not only saw the unique rhythmic ripples clearly but also felt them personally: strong yearning, admiration, and love. Pure positive energy, without a hint of negativity. He absorbed it immediately, and his divine soul was filled with an indescribably pleasant sensation. If there were a counter, it would definitely show experience +1. Liu Yao looked at his 3 sisters praying with closed eyes, deeply moved in his heart. As the heart is, so is the manifestation, a person's heart doesn't lie. These 3 enchanting women were wholeheartedly devoted to him, brimming with love. The willpower they generated was full of benefits and completely free of downsides, which he could confidently and boldly absorb to his heart's content. In Western religion, such people are called fanatical believers or holy believers. A spirit refining practitioner would even trade 1,000,000 average believers for one such fanatical believer. But even if one were truly willing to pay such a price, such a believer would be sought in vain. Next, it was time to go back to Blue Star for further experiments. Chapter 365, Too Many to Transport. To the east of the Star Alliance capital, within the maple woods on Hamilton Mountain, Liu Yao silently returned. A month had passed since the public trial that captivated the world. Pulling out his PDA to scroll through the news, he checked on the state of affairs on Blue Star since his last outburst. I still dominate the top global internet search. Excellent. This will surely translate into a vast tide of wishes. In both domestic and foreign social media, Liu Yao's name inevitably topped the headlines. And the buzz about him alone surpassed that of all others combined. Ranked second and third in the hot search were Star Alliance Nation Biological Laboratory, Star Alliance Nation's Super Virus Project. As Blue Star's only Superman, Liu Yao's popularity was sky high, drawing tsunami-like traffic, and any matter related to him sparked broad discussion. And whenever he was mentioned, the Star Alliance inevitably came up for discussion as well. Further fueled by a few other countries, the filthy deeds of the Star Alliance country could no longer be concealed. Consequently, various sectors on Blue Star joined in condemning the actions of the Star Alliance country. Liu Yao casually clicked on a few news articles, all reporting on this matter. The Star Alliance has been collecting deadly virus strains that can infect humans through livestock across the globe. Such research is extremely dangerous, a virus leak would be unimaginable. If used as lethal weapons, they could cause global human disasters. Recently, mass protests have erupted in several countries housing Star Alliance biological laboratories. People took to the streets to demand the shutdown of these dangerous facilities and a thorough investigation into past leak incidents. The Star Alliance refuses to sign the Biological Weapons Convention, and such unilateralism and double standards have seriously undermined the effectiveness of the existing arms control and non-proliferation regimes. Under international and public condemnation, the Star Alliance country, overwhelmed and in disarray, opted for silence on the matter, citing national security, and played dead. Fortunately, the most glaring Yakolun laboratory was shut down, satisfying Sergei's last wish. Truly a cancer of humanity, said Liu Yao without mercy, then prepared to attend to serious matters. His primary task upon returning was to confirm whether the power of collective will of Blue Star could be utilized by him. Thanks to the help of his sisters, he had a certain understanding of the unique thought waves called wishes, which was helpful for what he was about to do. But he mustn't let his guard down. After all, this was a scale of billions, not the trifling millions of Otherworld. Liu Yao leaped to a secluded spot at the mountain peak and cautiously opened his heavenly eye on his forehead. In an instant, the whole world changed, filled with colorful and strange lines. These were the magnetic fields of the planet, whose mechanisms remain a mystery to this day. And high in the sky, there was a vast ocean formed by wishes above his head. It was the convergence of countless people's hearts and thoughts towards Liu Yao, a rhythmic wave created by thought. Even though he had seen it once before, Liu Yao was still profoundly shocked at the moment. In comparison, the power of collective will gathered by the Empress Dowager was laughably insignificant, like sesame seeds on a whale. Having so many resources should be a good thing, but looking at the tide of wishes above his head, Liu Yao frowned deeply. This is too much. Such a huge and mixed amount of the power of collective will could wash me into an idiot or a madman in an instant. It's likely that no practitioner of spirit refinement in the entire cultivation system had a method to deal with such a situation. No spirit refinement expert had ever witnessed such an enormous amount of collective will. Moreover, wishes were not only numerous but also impure and mixed. Positive and negative in equal measure. If the wishes of his sisters were sweet dew, then this expanse from Blue Star was muddy water. Not everyone liked Liu Yao. Those who agreed with the Star Alliance's values and those who thought Liu Yao was a monster both despised and hated him intensely. The treasure is right before my eyes, whether I can leave with a full load depends on me. Liu Yao invigorated his spirit, ready to execute his plan to carry the will of Blue Star to the other world and use the barrier between the two realms to sever the threads of human thoughts, thereby achieving the purpose of filtration. He dared not hope to make the power of wishes turn into what his sisters possessed, but it should at least be easily absorbed. And against this point, a contingency plan had already been made. The scripture of enlightenment through hard work as well as the storybooks that the two sisters read, both record the concept of an offering vessel. This was an instrument used by the spirit refinement experts to collect the power of wishes. For example, the 8 treasures in front of Buddha in the temples, the incense burners in the Taoist temples, and the Bagua all function in a similar way. Hong Rongkan, who rebelled so openly without any scruples, directly used his own statues and portraits. Moreover, after an offering vessel has been washed over by the power of wishes for a long time, it can naturally become a powerful magic artifact. The Xuanyu seal of peace used by the Wudang sect leader Zhang Yunxia before is exactly such a case. Liu Yao had 2 objects that were very suitable to be offering vessels, the Pipa charm and the lake sword. Using them to absorb the power of wishes, they could not only serve as storage tools, but also allow them to be strengthened, reaping multiple benefits at once. First, I'll try with this one. A matchstick flew out from his ear, grew upon encountering the wind, and turned into a pipa in Liu Yao's hands. This was the magical treasure he had high hopes for, always considering it as his trump card and secret weapon. Liu Yao's divine soul travelled out of his body, hovering 3 feet above his head, and guided a thread of wish power down into the pipa. But this thread was relative to a vast ocean, turning into a group as thick as an elephant after descending. The majestic pipa charm was instantly filled to the brim, having ingested only half before it could take in no more. It's not that it was useless, but simply because there was too much. This was equivalent to swallowing the power of wishes from tens of millions of people from another world, and the immediate absorption was too much to bear. Moreover, the distressing part was that after the pipa was overstuffed, it couldn't shrink back down and had to be temporarily carried on his back. Liu Yao then took out the lake sword. Originally not expecting much, he was surprised to find that this saber belonging to the Emperor of the Westerners could actually take a lot, being filled after gulping down 3 threads. It was somewhat strange, but Liu Yao did not know why this weapon, with its peculiar material, could do so. After some research and finding no clues, he simply put it aside and no longer concerned himself with it. Then, he took out the triangle flying sword, given by Zhou Heli. As expected, mundane objects could not handle too much, and it only absorbed an insignificant trace. After all this fuss, the tide of wishes in the sky appeared not to have diminished at all. Liu Yao sighed, what I need to do is like scooping the water out of a reservoir with a bottle cap. Others were worried about not having enough power of wishes, even risking annihilation by the imperial court to secretly gather them. But Liu Yao's concern was that there was too much to transport. Do I have to bring a bunch of bottles and jars back to store them? I'll have to think about a solution slowly. Let's first download some information for the old master Zhou. Liu Yao opened his PDA to search beta for information related to aerodynamics, unaware that his previous action of guiding the power of wishes had caused many strange phenomena to occur in the entire capital region of the Star Alliance nation. The voltage was unstable, with many electrical devices even turning on and off by themselves. The signals of TVs, phones, and other devices were severely disrupted, making imaging difficult. It seemed they were suffering from a large-scale electromagnetic interference. The military quickly located the source of the abnormal electromagnetic waves, Hamilton Mountain, where Liu Yao was located. After all, a great battle had just taken place, and it was a sensitive time. The Joint Forces Command Headquarters, responsible for defending the capital, immediately dispatched drones for reconnaissance. Chapter 366. Sword slaying the drone. The advanced internet on Blue Star allows access to many valuable pieces of knowledge with just a flicker of a finger. As the system downloaded in the background, Liu Yao idled with his phone again, though his mood soured as he browsed. Star Alliance country, after all, dominated the global public opinion, and at this point, had already started shifting public attention to downplay the incident at the biological laboratory, all the while vehemently smearing Liu Yao. He happened upon a news story with a photo before a pile of collapsed ruins, flowers and candles were laid out as if in mourning. Accompanied by the text, "He cannot dampen the Star Alliance people's resolve to defend our freedom." Liu Yao sneered, "Isn't this too much? I remember this place very clearly. It was a supermarket, destroyed by missiles from Star Alliance country's own planes. And not a single person died, all these flowers for who to see. Previous battles had not resulted in any civilian deaths, only some reckless internet celebrities getting hurt. But Star Alliance countries' control over public discourse meant they could blacken anyone's name as they pleased, and they played dirty. For example, every day they organized civilians, particularly little girls, to lay flowers on former battlefields, speaking at length about the families of the deceased soldiers. In Xia country, they hired a bunch of self-media and influencers to fabricate stories and invent news, portraying Liu Yao as an antisocial madman. Really despicable, clearly reaping what they've sown, yet they place themselves in the victim's shoes. By this point, Liu Yao understood why there was such a high proportion of negative emotions in the ocean of willpower hanging over his head. Feeling extremely annoyed, he originally planned to collect some willpower and return home, but now he felt like causing some trouble. Just then, he looked up to make eye contact with a UAV recon drone overhead and waved, wearing a friendly smile on his face. Inside the Joint Forces Command Center, chaos ensued. "We have confirmed it, it's really him. He hasn't left. Quick, report this at once." It wasn't long before Commander Jackson arrived. He had been busy for many days, searching for Liu Yao and collaborating with military industry experts to create special weapons, and was utterly exhausted as he was on vacation at the moment. He had hoped to spend a pleasant wedding anniversary with his wife, but was summoned back just as he arrived at a high-end restaurant. Grinding his teeth as he looked at the familiar figure on the screen, he said, "Deploy the special tanks and drones, I want to tear this bastard to shreds." They have been activated and are en route to the target location, estimated arrival in 7 minutes. Many oddly shaped tanks emerged from secret military warehouses, racing towards Liu Yao's location. These were newly upgraded unmanned tanks, equipped with 30mm Gatling anti-tank guns, paired with the state-of-the-art automatic fire control systems. This system, originally used for close-in weapons systems on ships capable of intercepting high-speed missiles, was now aimed at Liu Yao. In the skies, there were also 10 modified Avenger drones. They too were outfitted with large-caliber Gatling guns and automatic fire control systems, tightly monitoring Hamilton Mountain to prevent Liu Yao's escape. Commander Jackson was confident, for he had witnessed the weapons demonstration. The most advanced automatic fire control systems had memorized all of Liu Yao's physical data, taking less than a second to lock onto the target, making the guns even more accurate than sniper rifles. But just then, several subordinates suddenly reported, "Sir, there are many civilians with camera equipment appearing on the mountain. These damn reporters and internet celebrities. Their noses are more sensitive than dogs. And our department is as leaky as a sieve." Jackson frowned, not bothering to find out which link had leaked. Have the special operations team on site work with the police to drive them away. To drive them away was to say it didn't really matter. Without further questions, the subordinates kept typing commands to push the mechanical army forward. At this moment, Blue Star's network exploded once again. Liu Yao and Star Alliance country were about to kick off. Netizens around the globe were immediately mobilized. But this time, Star Alliance country didn't plan on live streaming, instead, they set up a blockade to drive away the unrelated crowds at the scene. In the era of the internet, traffic is king, and traffic is everything. How could they miss out on such big news, such massive traffic? Internet celebrities and journalists risked being arrested by the military, desperately using every means possible to break through the blockade. While media conglomerates and internet giants started to pull strings, some daredevil hackers had already breached the military's unmanned reconnaissance drones. It was thanks to their bravery that netizens worldwide were able to watch the live broadcast. But everyone was a bit puzzled by Liu Yao's appearance at the moment. What's he carrying on his back? An ancient musical instrument from Xia country. Is that a pipa? But I'm more curious about the sword he's holding. Experience more on my virtual library empire. It's starting. Holy shit, that's some intense firepower. The unmanned tanks weighed only 4 tons, about the size of a small car, and could reach a staggering speed of 100 km per hour on highways. With all-terrain tread and a 500 horsepower engine, they easily climbed the not-so-steep slopes of Hamilton Mountain. Coordinated with the Avenger drones flying at an altitude of 1 kilometer, the automatic fire control system quickly locked onto Liu Yao's figure. Using interconnected data links and control systems, they commenced a joint assault. The sky and ground were filled with 20 Gatling guns, each with a fire rate of 6,000 rounds per minute. In an instant, they all opened fire, and a storm of cannonballs swept across the entire mountaintop. The lush and verdant mountaintop was instantly leveled by 3 feet, revealing the soil beneath. No matter the vegetation or the rocks, all were turned to fragments in front of the Gatling fire, with debris flying everywhere. So accurate. The approaching tanks and planes seemed like toys, yet, they were the most troublesome things Liu Yao had ever faced in his history. Incredibly agile and extremely precise, they were akin to 20 spirit refiners in a meditative realm, each wielding a Gatling gun. Liu Yao immediately activated Eve Dragon Stake, explosively diving to the ground to dodge with borrowed force, but he was still hit by 2 shots from the planes above. The cannonballs, carrying immense kinetic energy, sent him flying dozens of meters sideways. Seeing this, some shouted in excitement, others went pale, and cheers filled the Joint Command Center. But in the next second, before netizens could finish typing a row of captions, the situation suddenly reversed. Fireballs burst one after another in the sky, drones exploding mysteriously one by one. Inside the Joint Command Center, Jackson roared first, "What the hell is going on? What happened to the drones? The drones are under an unidentified attack, we are investigating." The operators were sweating profusely, manually controlling the surveillance probes of the drones, searching in all directions. Finally, just as the fourth drone was destroyed, they managed to capture the culprit Lake Sword. "What the hell is that? Is it attacking the drones?" "I don't know, it doesn't seem like a missile. This is unscientific." "Genius, we are dealing with a monster that's even more unscientific." The one launching the attack was Liu Yao's flying sword. At this moment, he was controlling Lake Sword to eliminate the greatest threats one by one, the drones flying in the sky. And to Liu Yao's delight, Lake Sword was exceptionally effective. Its flight speed far surpassed that of ordinary flying swords, reaching 300 meters per second, nearly the speed of sound. Moreover, it was incredibly sharp and could cut through metal like mud. Even after depleting the attached innate true qi, it still caused tremendous damage to the thinly armored drones. Chapter 367. All useless. The Lake Sword was only 1.2 meters long, with a very plain and inconspicuous appearance. The high-altitude battle was difficult to capture on camera. Therefore, as the drones continued to explode in midair, turning into clusters of fireworks, the netizens had no idea what was happening. Fortunately, there were many drones equipped with advanced image transmission systems flying overhead, and some lucky individuals managed to capture the silhouette of the flying sword. Once they clearly saw what it was, everyone was instantly speechless. The flying sword darted nimbly and fiercely into the drones, piercing them straight through and turning them into brilliant fireworks. At this moment, even many scientists and military and political officials from various countries were at a loss for words. Because after one's worldview is shattered, it takes some time to adapt. The first to react were actually foreign netizens, who found it magical but did not understand the significance of the flying sword. "Is this a telekinetic weapon? Reminds me of Yondu's arrow. The speed and power are much greater. This thing seems to be approaching the speed of sound and is clearly under control. Don't think drones are weak, the power to punch through them isn't less than that of an autocannon." Those within the Xia country's cultural sphere were still in disbelief. "Is this a flying sword? Impossible." "It seems like it is. Look, it has started below as well, it really is a flying sword." With the drones wiped out in the sky, the pressure abruptly decreased. Find exclusive stories on my virtual library Empire. Liu Yao recalled the flying sword and began to clear out the unmanned tanks on the ground. The battle in the high skies wasn't very clear, but the one on the ground was much more so. Under the mild sunlight, the flying sword glittered with a cold, warlike gleam, as it shot out with a piercing whistle. Only a dull, heavy clang was heard as the flying sword entered the front of an unmanned tank, boring a hole the size of a teacup before exiting from the rear. The intense friction of metal caused the hole to glow red hot. The unmanned tank emitted black smoke and sparks, then stopped moving after its engine died. "The frontal armor is 30 mm composite armor, quite tough," Liu Yao commented and immediately changed his tactics, driving the flying sword to switch its attack pattern to a top-down assault. The top armor was only a few millimeters thick, easily pierced by the flying sword, which went straight through from top to bottom. This time, the unmanned tank exploded immediately, its turret blown sky-high. The operator quickly changed the tank's mode, beginning to prioritize locking onto the flying sword to strike at it. But the Lake Sword, also known as the steel-cutting sword, disdained even steel, its hardness alone could injure an innate grandmaster's body. It rang like a bell and sparked under the barrage of autocannon fire, yet remained completely unscathed, without even a scratch left on it. Even Liu Yao was surprised by such hardness. While surprised, he maneuvered it to skim close to the ground. It drilled up through the bottom of an unmanned tank, then burst out through a hole in the top, putting on yet another spectacular explosion performance. Following that, the Lake Sword turned into a swift sewing needle, flipping up and down, as tank after tank was destroyed. The footage of Liu Yao controlling the flying sword was analyzed frame by frame and placed before politicians and top scientists of various countries. No matter how shattered their worldviews, the facts spoke louder than words. and they had no choice but to attempt a scientific analysis. Common netizens, however, were busy being shocked, amazed, and envious. It really is a flying sword. I thought it was a martial artist, who would have guessed a cultivator. That zither on his back, it couldn't be a song of broken guts, where in the world to find a soulmate could it? Some had accidentally stumbled upon the truth, but the opponent was too weak, so Liu Yao hadn't used his trump card yet. Speaking of which, I haven't tried the power of the magical treasure after leaving my body. Liu Yao had too many cards on his hands, far too many to play. And with the destruction of the last unmanned tank, Liu Yao achieved a victory without any suspense. With a gesture of his hand, the lake sword shot back and stopped steadily in front of him. Liu Yao carefully touched it, extending his mind force to thoroughly inspect it. Before, he merely felt it was an amazing weapon, but now it seemed he may have underestimated it. But just then, Liu Yao suddenly looked up to the sky. Rockets were flying densely towards him. The rockets didn't wait to hit the ground before bursting in mid-air, scattering countless clouds of dust that blanketed the entire hilltop. Before these items had even hit the ground, Liu Yao had already sniffed out what they were. Biological weapons. The Star Alliance country had established biological laboratories all over the world, bearing fruit over the years, and the type A botulinum toxin was one of them. Its toxicity is 100,000 times that of anthrax. A particle the size of a grain of salt could kill a burly man weighing 180 kilograms. 4 kilograms of this toxin, if properly dispersed, could even kill every person on Blue Star. Biological weapons are far more efficient and eco-friendly than nuclear weapons, but they are also more dangerous. But Liu Yao strolled through the toxic environment as if it were nothing, utterly untroubled. These toxins were not only useless, but as soon as they came within a foot of him, they would actively be absorbed by his body as nutrients. Following that, the second wave of rocket fire arrived. A colorless, odorless oily liquid was splashed into the air. It was in fact a VX nerve agent bomb. This was a type of nerve gas, as seen in the movie The Rock. Liu Yao quite liked this film, and now he couldn't help but take a deep breath to savor the most authentic original flavor from the Star Alliance country. But on closer inspection, he found that the Star Alliance country was quite insidious, mixing cyanide and radioactive toxins into the gas. It was a classic case of shooting oneself in the foot. Not only were the toxins useless, the radioactive elements even benefited Liu Yao. The wounds on his body, previously caused by machine gun fire, were now healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even with a healing factor, under normal circumstances, it would take an hour or two to fully heal. Now, the wounds were recovering instantly. Does the healing factor work better with radiation? Liu Yao headed towards the direction of the city center. The Star Alliance country had repeatedly provoked him with such arrogance and rudeness, it was time to teach them a real lesson. At this moment, the Joint Forces Command Center was filled with a panicked atmosphere. Biological and chemical weapons are useless. The target is moving towards the capital. Commander, should we deploy the troops to intercept? A fighter jet carrying thermobaric bombs is ready. Hectic voices overlapped one after another. The Joint Forces Command Center was a military command system exclusively used for defending the capital. Those serving here were all battle-hardened elites. But now, their voices were full of panic as they all looked towards the commander. Commander Jackson was sweating through his clothes, his mind in turmoil. At this point, the situation was beyond his control, and he had already reported the matter to higher-ups to make the decisions. As Liu Yao sprinted towards the city, he was also searching Xia country cultural exhibitions on his smartphone. He had just thought of it. Offering vessels for collecting desires worked best when imbued in ancient cultural relics. The Star Alliance country, with its short history, surely had no cultural relics of its own. But as a nation born of banditry, it had plundered many, especially from Xia country. They would be perfect for his use. No sooner had he descended the mountain than he saw throngs of reporters and internet celebrities, fiercely capturing the scene with various live streaming equipment. Liu Yao couldn't help but reflect, these people were still so fearless. At that moment, the first female broadcaster to interview Liu Yao, the one with a nose ring, Beth, was also at the scene. Having gained fame, she was now more stylish and not as emo as before, shouting into her live streaming gear. "Hey guys, this is Beth. See that Superman is coming. I'm still going to be the first to interview him." She pointed her device towards Liu Yao, but just then, a flood of live chat alerts came pouring in. "Run! Broadcaster, run for your life! Oh God, it's a cruise missile. Is that a nuke on it? A dot streaked across the clouds with a trail of flame and exhaust, hurtling down. It was indeed a cruise missile. Chapter 368. Terrifying Appeal. The Star Alliance country didn't care about the lives of these internet celebrities or freelance journalists at all. The cruise missile, using inertia and gravity, broke the sound barrier and arrived instantly. The thing, over 5 meters long, with its conspicuous tail flame and fire, flew in and was visible from over 10 kilometers away. Panic broke out on the scene immediately. Beth and others were crying and shouting as they ran out, while yelling haphazardly. "Fuck! No wonder the military pulled out just now, you bastards!" In her live-streaming comments, discussions were also happening. The missile can't possibly carry a nuclear bomb, right? Although the probability is small, it's not impossible. Even if it's not a nuclear bomb, it can't be something of low power. Don't run, host, you can't outrun a missile. Superman is still there, let's see what he will do. Liu Yao certainly saw the cruise missile as well. If it had been before, he could only have dodged it, but not now. With a raise of his hand, Lake Sword responded to his thought, whistling out, and intercepting the missile precisely at a distance of 5 kilometers. The flying sword hit the missile head-on, piercing it and carving a hole from the tail end, causing the missile to explode immediately. A huge rumbling noise erupted, and a gigantic ball of bright red fire appeared in the sky. The fireball kept expanding, growing larger and more visible, accompanied by a shockwave that was visible to the naked eye. This process lasted several seconds. The fireball expanded to hundreds of meters wide, incredibly clear and splendid. The temperature was at least 2,500 degrees Celsius, consuming all the oxygen in the region. It was the notorious thermobaric bomb. Its power was indeed remarkable, but unfortunately, it was blown up by Liu Yao from a distance of 5 kilometers into a splendid firework. The power that reached them was merely a gust of wind. The Star Alliance country plays a good game. First, a round with biochemical weapons, then finish with a superheat extermination using a thermobaric bomb. At this moment, countless recording devices captured this scene, and the audience watching the live stream around the world were also amazed. Thermobaric bombs are worthy of being sub-nuclear weapons. Even without a perfect detonation, they possess such power, truly spectacular. The power is not much less than that of a small-yield nuclear bomb, and there's no radiation. I wonder if such a weapon could kill Liu Yao directly. Right after that, Liu Yao summoned with an outstretched hand, and Lake Sword shot back, drawing everyone's gaze to the flying sword instantly. This thing can actually intercept a missile, frighteningly precise. The flying sword is not as rigid as imagined, it seems alive, even attacking from the weakest point. If the principle of this is known, it might lead to the Third Industrial Revolution. Be confident, remove the word might. While countless people were shocked and marveled, Liu Yao had quickly summed up the gains and losses of this battle. Although his previous actions were exhilarating, the consumption of the flying sword was also substantial. 2/3 of his innate true chi was spent. However, he still had 70 to 80% of his mind force left. But there were advantages. His control over the flying sword was now even more effortless, and the efficiency of destroying drones and tanks had visibly improved. Real combat is the best teacher, and the Star Alliance country was the most suitable sparring partner. At this time, a large group of people armed with cameras and equipment surrounded him, looking to get an interview. This crowd wasn't just internet celebrities, there were many journalists from media conglomerates as well. Indeed, seeking wealth at the jaws of danger, merely brushing a bit of Liu Yao's popularity was enough to change one's life and achieve social mobility. Moreover, Liu Yao had never struck a civilian, which was also where the people drew their courage from. Beth, with her prior experience, was the first to run over, shouting, "Mr. Liu Yao, do you remember me? Thank you for saving me last time." "I still remember you," Liu Yao revealed a hint of a smile. The female anchor had consistently followed behind him, quite daring. Spirit Refinement sensed that this person harbored goodwill towards him, and naturally, more positive willpower was always beneficial. Beth boldly asked, "Where are you planning to go next?" "The Star Alliance country has provoked me time and again, I'm thinking of getting some compensation." "Compensation? Are you going to rob a bank?" "Not quite. Stay updated with my virtual library empire." Without further discussion, Liu Yao spoke loudly, "Remember to remind your government to clean up the biochemical weapons on the mountain." Having said that, he exerted force in his legs, crushing the rocks underfoot, and shot into the sky like a cannonball, disappearing after a few bounds. Below, a crowd screamed hysterically, holding up live broadcast equipment and chasing far behind. "Sir, how did you cultivate your abilities? Was it cancer that caused you to mutate? Can your method of cultivation be replicated?" But Liu Yao had already disappeared after a few bounds, leaving behind a crowd with faces full of extreme disappointment. Not only them, but the overwhelming influx of Liu Yao's attention had caused both traditional media on Blue Star and the new internet giants to go crazy. Whoever obtained the first-hand information about Liu Yao, whoever captured clearer footage, could directly double their core metrics of viewership and daily active users. This was a terrifying power of attraction. Liu Yao navigated with his phone towards the Star Alliance National East Continent Art Museum. The museum was renowned for its collection of precious and rare Dongzhou artifacts, with the majority related to Xia country, all plundered by Star Alliance country by thuggish means. Luckily, the news mentioned that there were several heavyweight exhibits on display these days: the Tang Dynasty's Night Illumination Map, the Dragon Pattern Mirror, and the Western Zhou bronzeware the Tiger Ying. These cultural relics were considered to be treasures beyond value, their worth no longer measurable in money, and it was quite regrettable to see them scattered abroad. And since they were stolen, it was also very infuriating. These historical witnesses, gazed upon by countless people, were indeed the best offering vessels. Liu Yao was incredibly fast, while the bureaucrats of Star Alliance country were still passing the buck and engaged in party conflicts. He had already arrived at the front door of the National Museum. A building filled with Roman classical style appeared before him, surrounded by countless police cars blocking the way. Several police officers holding shotguns and handguns trembled as they aimed and said, "Stop, you cannot enter here. This is Star Alliance country's territory." Liu Yao shrugged his shoulders and completely ignored them, boldly walking straight through the middle of the police crowd. The police officers fell silent as if chilled to the bone. Even with Liu Yao within their reach, no one dared to do anything, watching him pass by with wide eyes. Many people in the surroundings took out their phones to film the excitement, some even jeered at the police, "Hey, you are just going to let him walk in like that?" Facing the taunts, the police officers of Star Alliance country stayed behind their cars, completely motionless. But there were always those who acted on their own accord. At that moment, one police captain actually fired at Liu Yao. This was another person seeking fame, albeit in a more extreme way. The white police captain rapidly emptied the magazine of his Glock handgun, yelling, "Demon! You cannot intimidate the people of Star Alliance." In his view, since Liu Yao had never hurt civilians, he surely wouldn't harm him either. His act of courage could then win him great fame. While the man dreamed of the future, Liu Yao casually picked up a stone and hurled it hard. Amidst a whistling sound, the head of the shooter burst apart, splattering his colleagues with a mixture of blood and brain matter. Excited screams erupted around him, and people once again filmed and posted on their social media accounts. And many clever people realized in an instant, for Liu Yao, distinguishing friend from foe was simple: if anyone dared to attack, they were an enemy. Chapter 369. Unexpected Magical Treasure. The outside was becoming increasingly lively as Liu Yao had already entered the Star Alliance National East Continent Art Museum. Inside, there was an array of Xia country cultural relics on display, including bronzeware from the Shang and Zhou dynasties, calligraphy and paintings from the Tang dynasty, porcelain from the Song dynasty, and many Buddha statues. Valuable relics were showcased under reinforced glass, while those deemed less valuable were carelessly placed around the hall. Without any protective measures, anyone could handle or pose with them for a price. Over time, many relics had lost arms and legs and were severely damaged. If a Xia country cultural relic enthusiast had seen them, they would have surely bled for it. Such blatant display of looted cultural artifacts from other countries would undoubtedly face criticism. To whitewash their acts of plunder and to stop the victimized countries from reclaiming their property, the thieves even concocted a theory. It was brazenly written on the museum's website. "We provide services of immense value for these relics. These services have removed the relics from their mother country. Cultural relics should not serve the citizens of any one country but should serve all of humanity." Simply put, the argument was, these cultural relics belong to all humanity, not to any one country. Though we have plundered the historical and cultural heritage of other nations, our actions are righteous. Truly shameless to the extreme. Without any hesitation, Liu Yao called upon his mind force to make all the relics float into the air, following him to the rooftop of the museum. No sooner had he arrived on the rooftop than he noticed various filming equipment set up on the surrounding buildings. He paid no mind and arranged the relics properly, then beckoned the power of collective will from the skies above. What he was doing now was turning these relics into offering vessels to store the excessive amount of the power of collective will. The relics each absorbed differing amounts of this power and began to shine on their own, even the many that were shattered and damaged glimmered brightly. And to everyone's astonishment, these relics could store the power of collective will with a capacity nearly as great as the Pipa charm. While Liu Yao was somewhat surprised, he quickly understood. These artifacts were priceless treasures handed down from Xia country, carriers of Xia civilization. Containing countless moving stories, inspiring heroes, and majestic epics that stirred up one's pride. Also, this Star Alliance National East Continent Art Museum was established 50 years ago. These artifacts had been revered by countless visitors every day. No other world temple, however popular its worship, could match the population of Blue Star. Being historic treasures in their own right, then displayed, offered up, and revered for 50 years, nothing could be more suitable as offering vessels. By doing so, efficiency would greatly improve, and Liu Yao couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. Good thing I tried this out, it's a huge win. But what he didn't anticipate was that the biggest gain was yet to come. At that moment, the whole world saw the Xia country relics suddenly glow and become dazzling. Instantly, netizens from the Xia country cultural sphere were the first to exclaim. Your adventure continues at my virtual library empire. Is this the ritual to refine magic artifacts? Forging magical treasures. An immortal demonstrating the method to craft flying swords live on scene. My grandfather has a collection of Xia country antiques, could they also do this? Does anyone know the method? Countries with a bit of power aimed their most sophisticated filming equipment here, vainly hoping to discover the secret. Scientists, too, watched unblinkingly, witnessing a scene that would overturn the academic world. But before long, an even more astonishing event took place. Liu Yao merely considered these relics as containers for storing the power of collective will, without any extravagant expectations, being able to do just that was gratifying enough. Moreover, he discovered something quite interesting. Those relics on display behind the toughened glass, invaluable as they were, proved to be the least suitable, absorbing the least amount of the power of collective will. Instead, the cultural relics that were haphazardly piled up, handled, and used as props for taking pictures with people were incredibly powerful. The power of collective will they absorbed was several times greater than the former. It seems that the quality of the offering vessel has little to do with the value or material of the cultural relic itself. Tisk tisk, this one is almost becoming a magic artifact. A Tang dynasty relic named Dragon Pattern Mirror was radiating the brightest light, drawing significant attention. Dragon Pattern Mirror is a 2-meter-tall bronze mirror used for the emperor to groom himself. Its back is engraved with a majestic dragon soaring through the clouds. The dragon was clearly the work of a master, incredibly lifelike. Making eye contact felt as if being stared at by a real dragon, commanding respect. But this treasure was not favored by robbers. Because it was made of bronze, robbers preferred gold and gemstones, moreover, it wasn't unique. There were many others like it, at most, it was just a mirror used by the emperor. Thus, it was always relegated to a corner, getting dirty from daily photos and touching, and it also bore many scratches. At this moment, the dragon pattern mirror had absorbed several times more power of collective will than its peers, shining with the most dazzling light and drawing the most attention. Countless cameras were aimed at it, broadcasting its image instantly across Blue Star through the internet. About 500 million people from the cultural circle of Xia country saw this image of the dragon soaring through the clouds with imposing might at first hand. In regions covered by Xia country's cultural circle, the dragon was known to everyone and was regarded with awe. Thus, a roaring tide of collective will converged and came together. Liu Yao looked up in surprise. Indeed, fortune has arrived. He immediately raised his hand and pointed, making the dragon pattern mirror float 3 feet above his head to help it gather the power of collective will. The power of collective will from 500 million people, all of it positive, made Liu Yao green with envy. But envy couldn't change anything. This was the result of thousands of years of cultural accumulation, something he couldn't rival. Such a colossal power of collective will washed away the mirror's worldly dirt in an instant, revitalizing it. The mirror's surface, which had been so dirty its original color couldn't be seen, cleaned off in a flash, and the scratches disappeared without a trace, emitting a dazzling brilliance as it stood suspended in the air. At this moment, the dragon pattern mirror had truly become a magical treasure. The Wudang sect's Swanya seal of peace had been an offering for 300 years before it became a magic artifact. The dragon pattern mirror took about 1 minute, I guess. Liu Yao wore a smile, but his face suddenly changed. At that time, who knows how many people called their friends to watch this miraculous scene, and many foreigners were also interested in Xia country's dragon. Especially the awe-inspiring dragon on the bronze mirror made people subconsciously revere it. The power of their collective will joined the pool, turning 500 million into 1 billion, and it was still increasing. Even though some negative will was mixed in, it didn't matter much. The recognition and admiration for the dragon within Xia country's cultural circle were just too strong, resulting in incredible veneration and awe. All of a sudden, Liu Yao wasn't sure what would happen next and could only patiently help the dragon pattern mirror gather the power of collective will. As time ticked by, the dragon pattern mirror assumed the spotlight, gathering more and more power of collective will. Liu Yao had stopped counting how much. It was an astronomical figure unimaginable for a spirit refinement expert from other world. With his guidance, before long, the dragon pattern mirror was emitting brighter and brighter light, like a mini-sun. Many of the cameras seemed to experience electromagnetic interference and suddenly failed, but fortunately, there were drones transmitting 4K signals high above capturing the scene. A high-pitched dragon's chant echoed through heaven and earth, and the dragon pattern mirror suddenly expanded, transforming into a 50-meter-long 5-clawed golden dragon. The golden dragon radiated dazzling golden light, its majestic presence roaring up into the sky before soaring into the clouds. At that moment, the whole world was speechless. Liu Yao laughed, goodness, who would have thought to acquire a magical treasure on Blue Star? Chapter 370. Wealth Code. The golden dragon soared through the clouds, its form intermittently visible amidst them. Soon, lightning flashed, thunder rumbled, and rain began to pour, inciting outbursts of amazement. Holy shit, a rain ritual! Why the surprise? Isn't summoning clouds and rain part of a dragon's job? Damn, this is the real world. At this moment, a curtain of rain enveloped the Star Alliance capital, growing heavier by the moment. Countless scientists in the capital rushed outside to bathe in the rain, gazing at the semi-transparent golden dragon overhead, their emotions lingering unsettled for a long time. Many researchers were also busy collecting and testing the rainwater, but no matter how they examined it, it was just ordinary rainfall. Witnessing this spectacle, more power of collective will converged, but Liu Yao did not want the magical treasure to continue absorbing it. Like freshly sprouted seedlings, what's needed is nurturing, not aggressive fertilization. Without any hesitation, Liu Yao severed the connection to the willpower, considering that there was an abundance of blue star willpower anyway, and then gestured with his hand. Instantly, the golden dragon dove, and at the same time a powerful dragon's chant resonated through the heavens and earth. This sound, like a bolt from the blue, could be heard throughout a greater part of the Star Alliance capital. In an instant, countless hearts were profoundly shaken. Especially for those members of the Star Alliance's elite who bore ill will towards Liu Yao, thoughts filled with an ineffable and intense reverence and awe arose. And for the majority of the lower-class onlookers, after their initial reverence dissipated, their spirits cleared, evil spirits faded into nothingness, with an effect like a great awakening. Looking at the hovering golden dragon beside him, Liu Yao wore an admiring expression as well. Just a moment ago, even he, upon hearing the roar of the dragon, felt his spirit become exceptionally clear, as if he had entered an era of enlightenment. Furthermore, Liu Yao felt as though the golden dragon were an extension of his own body, which he could control at will. At this moment, he couldn't help feeling that his luck was truly incredible. This is akin to gathering the entirety of Xia country's cultural sphere's thousands of years of reverence toward the dragon, creating an unprecedentedly powerful magical treasure. The dragon is the most representative symbol of the Xia cultural sphere, symbolizing majesty, evil dispelling, disaster avoidance, and blessings, with auspicious and propitious implications. Hearing its roar, one can tell that this magical treasure, born of Huaxia belief, surely possesses effects beyond mere slaughter. Discover hidden stories at my virtual library empire. Having obtained a priceless treasure, Liu Yao was in high spirits. Next up was the matter of purifying willpower. Despite the massive sea of willpower above his head and the enhancement of his equipment, he himself dared not touch even a fragment, fearing he'd become foolish from being overwhelmed. Now, it was time to return to the other world for experimentation. Under the watchful eyes of many, the golden dragon coiled its body and enveloped countless offering vessels within itself. Being an extension of the divine soul, Liu Yao could open a space-time bubble inside the golden dragon to place various items within. Finally, the golden dragon let its master mount its head, and with a loud roar, it soared into the sky, disappearing into the clouds. Liu Yao reaped tremendous benefits and then casually left, leaving Blue Star in a flurry of activity. Firstly, there were the various cultural relics of Xia country. Meanwhile, scientists attempted to unravel the underlying principles, hoping to explain everything scientifically. Earlier, when Liu Yao was guiding the willpower, he had caused some phenomena resembling electromagnetic interference. Many researchers recorded related data with their detecting equipment. They hoped to reverse engineer from this to harvest some insight, but regardless of their efforts, all was in vain. The spiritual world and the material world are two parallel lines that will never intersect without the interference and guidance of a spirit refinement powerhouse. Meanwhile, the general public around the globe remained excited to join in the sensationalism, eagerly clicking on anything related to Liu Yao, contributing a tsunami-like surge in social media traffic. As a result, many people had come to grasp the secret codes of wealth. First off, numerous self-media outlets swarmed in, releasing a mix of good and bad content. Clicking into one, you'd find Liu Yao rubbing his eyes during his student days. This was typical of low-end self-media who often had eye-catching titles but disappointing content, eliciting widespread annoyance. Thankfully, it wasn't long before extremely high-quality up-hosts released richly informative content. An up-host known as Hardcore Brother Cow published an educational video. Hello, everyone, this is Hardcore Brother Cow. In this video, I'm going to talk about the secrets of Mr. Liu Yao's body. Following the introduction was a clip of troops from the Star Alliance nations military firing like mad at Liu Yao. The bullets either flattened against his body, sparked and ricocheted off, or shattered upon striking his hard forehead. While the clip played, the up-host began his commentary. Human muscles are the best wedge armor, of course, provided they are sufficiently hard. Look, bullets are ineffective, which means that Mr. Liu Yao's body is tougher than Kevlar material. Such a formidable physique brought about a transformation in all aspects. Mr. Liu Yao could traverse a distance as long as a football field in the blink of an eye, with an average movement speed of around 60 meters per second. There's also a special explosive technique that temporarily allows him to reach speeds of 180 meters per second, catching up to a commercial airliner. The gusts from his high-speed movements are comparable to a strong level 6 wind. Not to mention his astonishing leaping ability, soaring over 100 meters, and a form of movement akin to a light body technique that allows him to briefly float up 300 meters high. It's truly amazing. Mr. Liu Yao's overall strength is at 6 tons, immune to light weapons and biochemical ones, and highly resistant to high temperatures and explosions. By that logic, strong acids and alkalis wouldn't work either. While it's true that there's always been a significant difference between individual humans, whether in strength or intelligence, such an extreme disparity is unparalleled. Looking forward to this Superman or cultivator and what he could bring to our world. This video ends here. If likes exceed 10,000, the next episode will come out instantly. Typically, this up-host's videos would only garner a few thousand likes, so he did not dare to boast too boldly. But to his utter surprise, in just half a day, his video had already surpassed 10 million views, with likes and comments racing toward 1 million. While netizens were indulging in the spectacle, at a certain army biological laboratory in the heartland of the Star Alliance country, Colonel Reynolds locked himself in the lab, repeatedly watching every piece of video footage related to Liu Yao. The walls were plastered with dense archives, detailing every little thing about Liu Yao, from his childhood to his adulthood. Even his medical reports and lab tests when he was treated for cancer were there. He watched from sunrise until darkness fell, and it was only when the lab's motion sensor lights automatically turned on that he suddenly snapped out of his watchful stupor. The target has suddenly revealed skills in wielding flying swords and forging magical treasures. In combat, both the speed and precision of the flying swords showed notable improvement. At this moment, as he watched the videos and analyzed various data, Reynolds' expression grew increasingly grim. He had come to a startling realization. This monster becomes stronger every time it appears. He's cultivating. The last word was said in Xia language, the most popular term on the internet nowadays. This chief scientist of the military was all too aware Liu Yao would never let him off the hook. Therefore, he must save himself by any and all means. At any cost, he had to kill the other party. I must quickly convince the fools up top to use nuclear bombs. Chapter 371. Just when Liu Yao was forging the magical treasure, the situation in the other world, resembling a raging fire fueled by oil, completely exploded. On the first day of the 12th lunar month, Emperor Yong'an officially summoned the nominal leader of the pantheism church Fu Fangsheng. It seemed to be a signal. In an instant, many more military governors and viceroys began to treat the local pantheism church leaders as honored guests, expressing support for the pantheism church's attacks on churches. These officials were all part of the radical faction within the Shun dynasty. They believed that the church, which was deeply proselytizing in the inland areas, posed a more severe threat than the pantheism church. With the support of the imperial court, the pantheism church became unstoppable. Churches were burned and missionaries and Westerners were slaughtered all over the country. And the prefectural governor of Jianzhou, Yu Ziuokan, even took to the field himself, killing the bishop of the Jianzhou diocese of the Gyi Church. He then burned all the churches in Jianzhou, and butchered everyone associated with them, a total of 20,000 people, including their family members and children. Under such momentum, many with ulterior motives joined under the guise of the pantheism church. At this moment, near Jinmen, in Zhu family village, a unique troop of the pantheism church was surrounding and attacking a monastery. They moved with skillful precision and extraordinary valor, and their guns were the latest models. Moreover, under the commander's coarse cloth uniforms was thick steel armor. These were clearly regular troops. It took them less than an hour to overtake the heavily guarded monastery. A few Westerners had already been killed on the spot, and the remaining 3,000 who had sought refuge with the church were bound hand to hand in a line. Although they had taken advantage of the church's power to bully their neighbors and enjoyed prosperity, they did not believe they deserved death and now knelt, begging for mercy. The army's commander was a big man with a mustache. At this moment, he slowly drew a katana. The sword looked very strange. Even in broad daylight, it was surrounded by black mist, which upon close inspection, revealed numerous human faces. "I, Long Jig Wang, shall borrow your heads today, do not take offense," he said. Having spoken, he began using the eastern sword to behead all 3,000 present, men and women, old and young alike, decapitating them with a single stroke. Moreover, he did it extremely slowly, as if to let these people fully experience the pain and despair before death, taking particular pleasure in killing their loved ones before their eyes. The scene instantly became an inferno, filled with heaven-shaking cries and curses. From morning until evening the killing went on, and the black mist on the katana grew much denser. Long Jigwang nodded in satisfaction. This Futsunamitama sword has grown 3 times more powerful. Supervisor Yuan should be pleased this time. Regroup and return to camp. At the same time, a similar scene was occurring with another group attacking a church. But their equipment was much inferior. They were obviously a motley crew, yet they had bizarre assistance. Just as the Westerners' cannon was about to fire, the screws on it inexplicably unscrewed themselves. When the cannon fired, it burst, and red-hot metal splinters tore through countless bodies with a sizzling noise. The church was easily overrun. Afterward, a fairy-like figure commanded thousands of captives to kneel before a Maitreya statue. Holding a long flute and dressed in an elegant chest-high blouse and skirt, she was none other than the holy maiden of the Holy Lotus sect Li Yueshan. At this time, she said serenely, "Pray sincerely and you may keep your lives." Hearing this, the captives hurriedly knelt before the statue in trembling worship, generating differing amounts of devotional power. But there were also some whose negative emotions stood out glaringly to the heavenly eye. Li Yueshan waved her hand, and immediately the followers of the Holy Lotus sect dragged these people away to be executed. If you do not wish to be slaughtered like dogs of the Western religion, then devoutly worship the Maitreya statue. Pray sincerely, and in the next life, you may be taken to the pure land of bliss. Having once been considered the most beautiful woman in the martial world, she had a firm grasp on her charisma. With a mix of soft and hard tactics coupled with the spirit refinement methods, she completely subdued all the captives. Looking at the increasing power of collective will within the offering vessel, Li Yueshan smiled contentedly. There were many such occurrences, with countless sects taking advantage of the chaos to gather the power of collective will. Moreover, in the eyes of these people, the situation was not yet chaotic enough. Only when the world was in complete disarray would it become their playground. Miaofeng Mountain, Golden Summit. Liu Ya returned in triumph, his face beaming with pride as he made his way to the courtyard where the guest rooms were located. No sooner had he returned than Li Pei came rushing over, but not to throw herself into his arms with an affectionate welcome. Instead, she came at him both scratching and hitting, angrily saying, You bastard, what do you mean by giving me a white tiger ornament? Ha, only now do you understand its implication. In these past few days, with nothing better to do, I read some idle books from the Wudang sect and found out. You're awful. The collection of books at Taoist temples shuns neither meat nor veggie, and some things are described quite explicitly. Having learned that her husband's gift had apparently been mocking her, Li Pei felt deeply embarrassed. Liaoya and Liao Qi watched the drama unfold with amused smiles, having already witnessed the miraculous aspects of Sister Li Pei. Discover hidden stories at my virtual library empire. It took a good while for Liu Yao to soothe this little tiger and calm her down, holding her tightly in his arms. Having not been held in days, Li Pei's eyes brimmed with tears, and she shifted the conversation to ask, seeing you so joyous, my lord, did you encounter some good fortune this time? Liu Yao said with a smile, I indeed came upon a great opportunity this time, let me show you the treasure I just acquired. In front of the three curious women, a bronze mirror flew out of Liu Yao's mouth, growing to a foot in length as it caught the wind. Junior brother has obtained another magical treasure. A dragon pattern mirror? This dragon looks so majestic. Li Pei exclaimed, why do I sense such a strong dragon energy? Magical treasures were not as common as cabbages, it was uncertain if there were even 10 still existing in the world. Yet, Liu Yao's dragon pattern mirror faintly exuded the majestic aura of a true dragon. Liu Yao laughed proudly, saying, watch closely. With that, the dragon pattern mirror suddenly shone with golden light, transforming into a 3-foot-long 5-clawed golden dragon that circled around everyone present. The three girls' mouths formed O shapes, utterly astonished. It can grow to more than 50 meters, Liu Yao boasted, but it's too conspicuous. I'll show you its full form some other time. The curious girls reached out to touch the golden dragon. Liaoya marveled, dragon-shaped treasures are often incredibly powerful, containing endless might. No wonder you're so happy, junior brother. Li Pei, with wide eyes, marveled, this is a manifest magical treasure born from the power of collective will, it seems to like me particularly. The golden dragon nestled close to Li Pei, seemingly fond of her. Then it let out a high-pitched dragon's chant, which clarified the minds of everyone present. The dragon's roar can actually purify the mind and enlighten the spirit, amazing. It must have great killing power against evil spirits. The sisters chirped in amazement. Liu Yao, looking at the golden dragon nestled against Li Pei, suddenly said, it likes you, could it be because you're a royal lady of the imperial family? Li Pei nodded, possibly. Divine Land has the concept of dragon energy, also called the dynasty's will, and I may have absorbed some. Liu Yao nodded, then laughed, in the future, I will surely get you a mighty magical treasure as well. Li Pei had no doubts about Liu Yao's ability and looked forward with anticipation, smiling gratefully, thank you, my lord. Liaoya and Liao Qi pouted, jealousy flaring up. Liu Yao said with a grin, don't worry, dear sisters, I certainly won't forget about you. Only then did the sisters' faces break into smiles, the man before them had never let them down. Chapter 372. One day can make up for 10 years of effort. The next day. The experiment with purifying wish power was of great significance, so it was more convenient to return to their own home. After the family had finished packing, they were just about to go and say goodbye to Zhou He when the old Taoist priest beat them to it by paying a visit himself. You're leaving? Good timing, I won't hold you back. My senior brother and I are going to Chang'an to set up an array for the Empress Dowager's summer palace. The summer palace? The place where the Empress Dowager spends her tranquil years. Liu Yao said, she is leaving the imperial city then. Zhou He laughed, exactly, and it's for the best. It spares us from the heavenly demon Empress Dowager causing chaos and unrest in the imperial city. The old Taoist evidently had an attitude of sending off a plague god. Liu Yao nodded and brandished the white paper crane in his hand, then we shall meet another day, keep in touch often. Zhou He also laughed, keep in touch, till we meet again. In an era where telephones were not yet widespread, spirit refinement experts already had their own smartphones. After saying farewell to Zhou He, the family prepared to leave. Liu Yao also wanted to ask Yu Yanmei if she wanted to go back with them, especially remembering that this female grandmaster was very fond of flying on spiritual sparrowhawks. Li Pei, as if knowing what her husband was going to ask, preemptively said, my master can't stay idle. During the days you were away, she went demon beast hunting with Fu Fangsheng. Liaoya also spoke up, Junior brother, to keep in touch conveniently, I gave my vermilion bird to Grandmaster Yu. When you have a moment, make another one for me. No problem, then let's head home first. The group mounted the spiritual sparrowhawk, and amidst the gust of wind whipped up by its wings, they soared into the sky, reaching into the clouds. On the way home, they all took turns riding the 5-clawed golden dragon summoned by Liu Yao with curiosity. The average speed of the spiritual sparrowhawk was 650 km per hour, and the dragon's speed was about the same, hovering around 600 km per hour. But using magical treasures wasn't without cost, it consumed immense mind force to maintain, so in comparison, the spiritual sparrowhawk was more cost-effective. The speed of the spiritual sparrowhawk was extremely fast, and even with the time spent playing with magical treasures on the way, it took less than an hour and a half for the family to return to Yunzhou. Liu Yao patted the heads of the 3 babies, grateful that his efforts were not in vain. Having them was just so convenient. Moreover, they served not only as transport but also as the best aerial warning and force deterrent. Head to the sky for surveillance, forbid anyone from approaching. The 3 spiritual sparrowhawks screeched in response, obeying their master's command as they flapped their wings and soared into the sky, circling above. Liu Yao had too many secrets on him. Liu Yao took out all the jars and containers he brought back and began the experiment with purifying wish power. Offerings are toxic. The wish power from Blue Star, though massive, contained too many negative emotions, using it directly would inevitably result in madness or idiocy. Liu Yao's idea was to sever the human emotions by the barrier between 2 worlds, achieving the purpose of filtration. He didn't dare claim to make the wish power the same as that of his sisters, but at the very least, it should be easily absorbable. With this thought, he first took out a sculpture, a tricolored figurine of a female dancer. Originally, this offering vessel stored the wish power of about 1 million people. Although vast, it was highly impure, and certainly, no one would dare to use it. However, after 2 rounds of transportation between worlds, only half or 500,000 people's worth of power remained. And the most crucial point was the severance of thoughts by the barrier between 2 worlds. These wish powers, no longer supported by thoughts, had become rootless duckweeds. At this moment, they all transformed into the standard level of ordinary temple wish power, akin to a normal person muttering a few words in front of a deity's statue. While quite ordinary, the quantity was simply too great. And there was more than just one like this. Liu Yao then took out an ancient Tang dynasty painting, the Night Illumination Map. This painting was world famous, depicting the most beloved horse of Emperor Xianzong of Tang. The wish power stored in it was also exceptionally vast, and even after deducting the loss, there was the equivalent of 5 million people's worth left. In the other world, even the temples with the most abundant incense would take decades to accumulate such an amount. And Liu Yao had over a dozen such items in his possession. Such wish power was almost inexhaustible on Blue Star. This was the advantage of having an entire modernized world as a support system, no need to worry about resources for cultivation, just comfortably exploit the advantage. Next, it was time to absorb wishes for nourishment and convert them for my own use. Out. Liu Yao's divine soul traveled out of his body, hovering 3 feet above his head, and in one go absorbed the wishes of 10,000 people as a trial. This was the smallest amount that could manifest in the real world, any less would be as futile as water. The strand of uniquely rhythmic fluctuation was engulfed by the divine soul like a giant whale sucking in water, vanishing without a trace. The divine soul's radiance flickered a few times, and Liu Yao felt as if he had drunk a cup of beer, with no significant reaction. Continuing to absorb wishes, once it reached 100,000, his divine soul started to feel heavy, as if a common person had become drunk. Liu Yao suddenly realized, under normal circumstances, this is my daily absorption limit. But I have quite a few cards up my sleeve. No sooner had he spoken than the ice jade bracelet on his wrist emitted a strange frigidness that shot straight to his forehead. The strand of drowsy intoxication in his divine soul instantly disappeared, as if it were only an illusion. The mystical icy heart concentration had a miraculous effect on spirit refining cultivation, the first card Liu Yao had prepared. Thus, he continued to absorb wishes. With the magical effect of the ice jade, Liu Yao managed to absorb the wishes of 500,000 people before he stopped. At this point, there was a buzzing in his head, and he couldn't help but be bombarded with miscellaneous thoughts, which even the ice jade had trouble suppressing. Liu Yao's expression unchanged, played his second card. The 5-clawed golden dragon suddenly appeared. This time in its full 50-meter-long form, it cried out a lofty dragon's chant to its master. The authoritative dragon's roar became visible sound waves that covered the entire area, instantly bringing clarity to Liu Yao's mind, scattering and dissolving the distracting thoughts. Just like a wake-up call. This dragon's chant has an immediate effect on the mind. Liu Yao remarked, and continued to absorb wishes as if nothing had happened. By now, his out-of-body divine soul, after containing these uniquely rhythmic mental fluctuations, had become twice its original size, almost a foot long, with its prowess also increased several times over. At that time, the three sisters, hearing the dragon's chant, hurried over. They circled around Liu Yao, carefully checking him, and only when they confirmed their husband was fine did they relax. Smelling their sweet scent, Liu Yao felt his divine soul was incredibly comfortable. And as the sisters' pure positive willpower flowed into him, his divine soul felt even warmer and more content, as if he were soaking in a hot spring. In terms of effect, his three lovers were even more important than all his trump cards combined. After a cozy time with his family, Liu Yao absorbed another 500,000 people's worth of wishes before he stopped cultivating. At this moment, his divine soul was nearly 2 feet long, radiating a more dazzling light. It was several times larger than originally, and its power must have also increased many times over. What followed was to test the results of this cultivation. In the expectant gaze of the three sisters, Liu Yao raised his hand to point, and the lake sword shot out. The original speed of the flying sword was 300 meters per second. But this time, with a loud boom, the flying sword suddenly exploded with a ring of air waves cutting through the sky, astonishingly reaching the speed of sound. Li Pei was the first to praise, sword energy thundering, piercing through everything. My husband's flying sword has reached perfection. Liaoya and Liao Qi rejoiced, junior brother, has your plan succeeded? It has. 1 day now equals 10 years of effort. Liu Yao excitedly controlled the sonic speed flying sword, flying several laps with a trail of shock waves. At this moment, controlling the sword at the speed of sound meant he had crossed the minor realm of object command and could proceed with possession cultivation. Since he had practiced spirit refinement and out-of-body technique, only a little over a month had passed. The inexhaustible supply of wishes from Blue Star shall become my ladder to ascend to the heavens. Your next read awaits at my virtual library empire. Whatever the allied forces, Heavenly Demon Empress Dowager, or any demons and goblins, bring it on. Chapter 373. The Magical Possession. With endless willpower supporting her, Liu Yao's divine soul grew rapidly. After stabilizing her realm for a few days, she began the possession cultivation with gusto. This stage was quite interesting, as the divine soul could attach itself to objects or even other people's bodies, as the name suggested. It's possible to forcibly control someone else to twist their own neck. And there's something even more sinister seizing one's body. Unscrupulous spirit refiners conducting experiments on innocent mortals when cultivating this step have left many horrific folk tales behind. They engaged in such acts not because they were idle, but because the cultivation of this stage not only strengthened the divine soul but indeed required possessing others to try it out. At this moment, Liu Yao also needed such a sparring partner. It was then that Liao Qi volunteered to stand up, offering to be the practice partner for her beloved. After giving it some thought, Liu Yao agreed, considering she wouldn't harm the girl anyway. The two went into a room and pressed their foreheads together. Liu Yao, worried that the girl might be nervous, said gently, relax, don't be afraid, I'm going in, haha. Come on. Logically, one should be terrified of being controlled by someone else. But Liao Qi was giggling nonchalantly, showing complete and utter trust in her beloved. Seeing the girl's good mentality, Liu Yao stopped dilly-dallying. Her divine soul immediately left her body and shot into Liao Qi's brow chakra. Normally, such an act would definitely encounter fierce subconscious resistance. Yet Liu Yao waited for quite a while and didn't encounter the expected resistance. Instead, she occupied Liao Qi's brow chakra in no time. She even saw her divine soul a walnut-sized, cloud-like pure white adorable little flame without a single impurity. Their divine souls touched, and when they spoke, they didn't need to move their lips, they could just think about it in their hearts. Liu Yao, with mixed feelings of amusement and disbelief, said, "Why didn't you resist? You just let me in like that." Liao Qi sweetly replied, "I don't know, I just didn't feel like resisting. If you want to come in, then come in. You trust me too much. I could control your body, you know." He, as if you could harm me. Liu Yao was deeply touched. Such easy possession indicated the girl's absolute obedience and trust in her, leaving herself completely unguarded. She made up her mind, she must ensure that the delicate girl lived a happy life. At that time, Liao Qi asked, Liu Yao, what should we do next? Next. I'm going to try controlling your body. Okay, go ahead. The next second, Liu Yao, through her divine soul, took control of Liao Qi's body. Liao Qi's eyes opened and closed, her whole demeanor changed, gaining a few traces of Liu Yao's expressions. At this moment, Liao Qi, full of curiosity, touched her own body and shook her two shiny braids. Then she looked at the motionless Liu Yao standing there with dull eyes. Haha, so this is what possession feels like? It's like playing a VR game. It was Liu Yao controlling Liao Qi's body, and she asked, do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? No, it's pretty fun. Is this what it feels like when divine souls merge? The girl felt she had never been closer to her beloved, even completely merging together, and she was even enjoying this connection of heart and soul. Liu Yao instructed, I'll control it and play for a while, but if you feel uncomfortable, let me know right away. Liao Qi immediately suggested, let's go scare my sister. She's always picking on me, you should take revenge for me. Liu Yao had no objections and controlled the girl's body to the courtyard's training field. Liao Yao was dedicated to the martial path, practicing earnestly every day, and it was a sure bet to find her at the training field. The sect leader's eldest disciple sister was sweating profusely, her clothes soaked as she pondered on something deeply. Sweating while practicing martial arts isn't just to cool down, it's more about expelling impurities from the body. Seeing her younger sister coming over, Liao Ya's pretty face tightened into a stern expression. What are you dawdling for? Come and practice your punches. You're lazing around all day, and if you fall behind in your realm, Liu Yao won't hesitate to reprimand you. With Liu Yao's help in cheating, Liao Qi has indeed become a bit lax lately. At this moment, she muttered in her divine soul, all he knows is how to scold people. Liu Yao said with a wicked smile, Sister, you're quite fierce. Let's spar a bit. You itching for a beating? My inner breath is already burning. It's just a minor realm difference, come on, the loser gets a spanking. You're asking for it. The sisters often trained together, and Liao Ya didn't suspect anything, thinking that her sister might have learned some new trick. The two women took their stances in the center of the field, and the next second, they collided with a sudden burst. Today, Liao Ya started with blood battle in all directions, mercilessly launching a flurry of punches at her sister. Normally, Liao Qi would get hit several times, the pain piercing to her heart. But the Liao Qi at this moment casually strolled among the roaring fists, effortlessly dodging them. Liao Ya's expression became more and more astonished, she couldn't even touch the hem of her sister's clothes. Since when had her sister become so formidable? The next second, Liao Qi unleashed the Zixing Shen, her figure flashing suddenly behind Liao Ya. Liao Ya's heart tightened, and without looking back, she countered with a blue dragon bearing sorrow. But this killer move was once again dodged, and someone smacked her enticing, heart-shaped behind. Liao Ya cried out, clutching her buttocks in disbelief, have you broken through to the spirit refining stage? The two were of the same realm, and she was slightly better, so being toyed with like this was the only explanation. Liao Qi boasted proudly, don't worry about that too much, you lost, come on, it's spanking time. You already did that just now. That doesn't count. The two squabbled for a while, and Liao Ya, a woman who kept her word, eventually braced herself for the humiliation, turned around, stuck out her buttocks, and let her sister hit her. In the field, the sound of spanking resonated, the alluring waves quivering continuously, Liao Qi laughing triumphantly. Afterward, Liao Ya, appearing disgraced, glared at her sister, then suddenly, she found her sister's little gestures and demeanor somewhat familiar. After pondering for a while, she had a flash of insight and shouted, You're Liu Yao. You're using the soul travel possession ability. That explained everything. Liu Yao's divine soul had never intended to keep it a secret from her pillow partner. It flew out from Liao Qi's brows, saying through telepathy. Haha, your sister has discovered me. I've possessed your body long enough for today, I'll do it again tomorrow to help you with your cultivation. With that, it flew back to its own body. With a blink, Liao Qi regained control of her body, excitedly saying. Sister, Liu Yao's possession is so much fun, we can merge souls, and he can help cultivate. Does this mean I don't need to train by myself anymore? But what she faced was her sister's furious glare. You really hurt me just now. Liu Yao blinked, coming back to his senses, hearing the pig-like screams of Liao Qi from the direction of the training ground. He smiled and didn't mind, beating his affection, scolding his love. Liao Ya was doing it for the sake of her little sister. But this time, Liao Qi really did help a lot, giving him a thorough understanding of possession. In essence, possession is a method for spirit refiners to train their divine soul, preparing for the crucial soul manifestation. Everything is going smoothly. As long as I keep cultivating in order, I will soon gain significant power even in the other world. His current strength was only enough for self-protection, still lacking for bigger aspirations. But relying on the massive amount of Blue Star's wishes, he could soon divine manifestation. Discover exclusive content at my virtual library empire. As Liu Yao was filled with confidence about the future, Sua area suddenly brought him many newspapers. The young girl would only bring them ahead of time when something very important happened. She bowed and said, "Sect uncle, the great powers are going to cease hostilities." Chapter 374. Situation. Stay tuned with my virtual library empire. The essence of this war was nothing more than a group of robbers falling out over an uneven split of the loot. The closely watched Western Front was like a game of greedy snakes, with both sides frantically digging earth while trying to encircle the other. And so they dug from the Swiss mountainsides all the way to the Belgian seaside, creating 2 trenches stretching over 500 kilometers, plunging into a trench warfare that drove soldiers to the brink of insanity and death. Over the years, from poison gas to flamethrowers, from tanks to machine guns, the weapons of killing had been updated multiple times. The casualties caused were increasingly severe day by day, to the extent that the gauze for wrapping corpses had to be imported from the Shun dynasty, leading to a boom in the textile industry. The prolonged trench warfare had already filled ordinary soldiers with extreme loathing. At this point on the Western Front, today was Christmas Eve. In the festival atmosphere, the rumbling sound of artillery fire seemed to have paused for the rare moment. The smell of gunpowder dispersed, and sunlight, long mist, poured down. Private Smith decided to make himself a decent dinner as a treat. He pulled out his folding knife and cut a 1/3 piece of jerky, its original color indiscernible, into a sooty metal lunchbox, then carefully stored the rest away. He then took out a cherished small piece of carrot and added it to the box, poured in water from his canteen, and all that was left was to wait. The tiny flame licked at the lunchbox, and in a short while, the aroma of the food wafted out. Smith placed his hands on his chest in a triangular symbol, said a prayer, and then ate his rare feast with biscuits until the lunchbox was so clean it didn't need washing. Afterward, Smith leaned back in the trench and closed his eyes to rest, recalling the happy life before the war, remembering the gentle body of his wife. This was his secret to keeping his sanity from spiraling into madness. He had only been sitting for a short while when a strange noise was carried over by the wind from afar. Listening intently, it turned out to be countless people singing a song. The language varied but the tune was very familiar. It was Silent Night. The song was being sung by the jihad soldiers in the opposite trench, and before they knew it, those in their own trench also began to sing in their own language. For a moment, the melodious song echoed in the sky above the battlefield. Before he knew it, Smith found his face awash with tears. But suddenly, a sharp whistle pierced the air. Everyone immediately grabbed their guns and aimed, and the song was replaced by the sound of bullets being chambered, scaring a few rats into running wildly about. Cautiously peering out from behind cover, they saw a jihad soldier with a wooden box slowly approaching. Someone shouted, "Don't shoot, he's unarmed." In the tense atmosphere, the jihad soldier put down the box and left with his hands raised. Breathing a sigh of relief, they quickly sent someone to check the box. It was filled with tobacco, raisins, beer, and such. It was actually a holiday gift. In the distance, a war correspondent captured this scene with his camera. At this moment, Liu Yao was looking at this photo through the newspaper. The news headline was "Christmas Eve in the Trenches." Soldiers from both sides spontaneously ceased fire during Epiphany and exchanged gifts according to tradition. Liu Yao understood immediately, the powers engrossed in high-intensity warfare could no longer persist. Especially the lower-ranking soldiers, who were on the verge of eruption. The newspapers thought the same. Every paper featured numerous commentators analyzing and unanimously agreeing that jihad was on its last legs. After the battles of Verdun, Somme River, and the summer offensive, jihad's downfall was only a matter of time. Even well-informed sources claimed that Kaiser Wilhelm II had already written a letter of surrender to Empress Catherine. The warring powers, whose ruling classes had long become relatives through countless alliances by marriage, were fighting a life-and-death struggle. In plain terms, it was a brawl among relatives. Liu Yao was not surprised by this and knew that once the powers freed up their hands, it would be the end for the Shun dynasty. The powers, having suffered heavy casualties and massive losses, would surely seek to replenish their blood by feeding on the Shun dynasty. Liu Yao put down the newspaper and started his cultivation anxiously once again. All else is illusory, only power secures absolute safety. In the following days, he devoted himself to training, oblivious to the world outside. Liu Yao's schedule was packed full. It was either body forging or spirit refinement, and if he had a bit of free time, he helped his family with massages, as well as the newest shortcut possession to assist in cultivation. The one often enjoying this treatment currently was Liao Qi. Liu Yao directly possessed her with his divine soul, using his own experience to smooth out the path and show the way for the young girl. It only took 1 week for him to elevate Liao Qi to internal breath burning. Liao Ya was infuriated to the core, having diligently studied and practiced just to get ahead, only to have her sister effortlessly catch up through cheating. Thus, she and Li Pei kept pestering Liu Yao for assistance, and upon trying, they exclaimed in surprise at the remarkable effects. Liu Yao was an experienced individual, and he possessed the cultivation of the out-of-body realm. Being possessed by him for training definitely brought immense benefits. In this manner, Liu Yao's days were extremely full and hectic, keeping him constantly busy. Actually, he could completely sacrifice his nightly entertainment, and he wouldn't have to live so tiresomely. But Liu Yao would never give up this most supreme of pleasures. And even if he was willing, the 3 sisters who had once tasted it would not agree. Female martial artists possess desires that far exceed those of ordinary women, so much so that even the most bashful Liao Ya would pull her junior brother aside during the day to steal a moment of passion. At the moment, Liu Yao was in the room fussing over his senior sister with a critical eye. Half an hour later, Liao Ya stood on the ground, trembling in her thighs, and said with great embarrassment, "Sigh, junior brother. I don't even know what's gotten into me." Originally, she had just come to consult her junior brother about issues on the martial path, but after a few words, it turned into this. And it was she who had initiated it. She said shyly, looking down, "Junior brother, you mustn't laugh at me." "How could I, senior sister? I'm too happy to do that. By the way, what did you want to ask me?" Liao Ye, stifling her embarrassment, said, "It's about the matter of 44 matched teeth." Oh, let me explain." Liu Yao, drawing from his own experience, began to clarify for his senior sister. As she listened, Liao Ya blushed while helping him clean his body. After getting the answers she needed, she ran off without looking back. Liu Yao watched the retreating figure of the beautiful woman and couldn't help but smile. Having such a wonderful senior sister, truly, he wouldn't trade her for an immortal. While Liu Yao was enjoying himself, the Western Front was facing an unusual day. Recently, rumors that the war was about to end were flying everywhere, filling countless ordinary soldiers with joy and excitement. Private Smith also firmly believed that it was true. The allies of Jihad were utterly defeated and disintegrated, he would be able to go home soon. As everyone relished in their high spirits, nobody noticed when a thick fog had enshrouded the battlefield, reducing visibility to less than 10 meters. Suddenly, a piercing whistle sounded, and the soldiers quickly grabbed their weapons and loaded them. Machine guns and cannons were also made ready. Have the Jihad people come up with a new weapon? Not sure, they've been quiet for many days now, I thought they were about to surrender. The soldiers whispered among themselves, their chatter easing the tension they felt. The next second, vague silhouettes appeared within the dense fog. These were definitely the enemy, and without a word, the soldiers began to fire. Bullets of various calibers carried the high temperature of discharge, turning into lines of red as they shot through the fog and pierced the bodies of their enemies. But these figures weren't much affected and continued to advance. Soon, the two sides came face to face. Private Smith couldn't help letting out a pitch-changed cry of shock upon seeing the enemy's appearance. These people were all zombies, black blood oozing from their 7 orifices. They're the undead. The Jihad people have resurrected the corpses. Quick, aim for their heads. Being part of a world beyond the ordinary, many low-ranking officers were somewhat knowledgeable and chose the right action immediately. But looking over the entire battlefield, one would see that there were millions of these zombies, pouring forward like waves into the trenches. All the soldiers who had died since the start of the war were now being awakened. Chapter 375. Arya washes the marrow. The zombies from the other world were terrifying in form, with veins bulging from their skin like earthworms, and a pitch-black viscous substance oozing from their facial features. Read new adventures at my virtual library empire. But they were anything but slow-moving targets. Zombies leapt like agile baboons, possessing a formidable jumping ability that allowed them to vault into trenches from 10 meters away. For a time, the trenches became a scene straight out of Resident Evil. Zombies were getting blasted to pieces, brains bursting apart, but there were simply too many of them. The army was overwhelmed by the tidal wave of monsters without warning, and countless soldiers were torn apart and devoured alive. Watching the creatures flood into the trenches like a tide, Private Smith knew he was never going home. He pulled the pin on Emil's grenade, grateful that it exploded before he could be dismembered. By the time Liu Yao saw this news, it was already the third day since the event. All major newspapers covered the news of the army's great battle against the zombies with extensive reports. At the moment, Liu Yao marveled at a photo of tanks rolling over zombies. A million zombies charging the trenches, this is what a superhuman war looks like. It's a shame they still can't turn the tide against guns and tanks. The zombie horde might have seemed brave, but they were mowed down like wheat by machine guns and tanks before they could advance less than 20 kilometers. The scene of blood and gore flying was truly heart-stopping, and Jihad's act of summoning an army of the dead also drew unanimous condemnation from the international community. The ruling class of the powers that be liked to cloak themselves in a veneer of gentlemanliness, valuing dignity, and even a bloodsucker had to engage in willing trade to feed. The use of spells to control corpses, at least overtly, was prohibited. Jihad, casting aside all respect to publicly desecrate the dead, showed that they had indeed reached their limit. After years of massive warfare depleting their resources, their country was on the brink of collapse, forcing them to bet everything on this desperate move. From then on, the struggle held no suspense. For the upper echelons of Jihad, the next step was to seek a dignified end to the war at the negotiation table. In the Shun dynasty, the Boxer rebellion still raged on. But the imperial court, which had initially turned a blind eye, now took strict control. The attitudes of the foreign ministers stationed in the Shun dynasty were increasingly aggressive, demanding with harsh words that the court exterminate the Boxers and compensate the losses suffered by the various countries and the church. The atmosphere was becoming tense. The imperial court continuously called back the battle-capable troops from the western frontier who had just finished fighting to form the imperial guards and defend imperial city. Because anyone with clear sight could see, the great powers, once their hands were free, would surely seek retribution and inevitably carve flesh and spill blood from the Shun dynasty to recoup the losses from the war. At that moment, Liu Yao had a clear understanding of what was to come. Left Minister had also warned before, fortune relies on disaster. The robbers see the Shun dynasty like a fattened pig, and this time they will surely kill to regain their blood. I've made full preparations, even got a nuclear bomb at hand, definitely giving the otherworld version of the Eight-Nation Alliance a taste of their own medicine they won't forget. Liu Yao believed he had made thorough preparations. His space-time bubble had everything he needed to strike the invaders hard like he had in the previous encounters. These robbers' invasions were always accompanied by murder, looting, and violation, and Liu Yao would never stand idly by. He didn't act out of any noble sentiment like defending the homeland or national righteousness. Opposing the powers was just a matter of his conscience. And with the Eight-Nation Alliance on Blue Star reduced to a joke, it was rare to find something as spirited as the otherworld version worth taking on. In the following days, Liu Yao continued to focus diligently on his cultivation, yet each day was fulfilling. Feeling himself growing stronger by the day, his body undergoing a qualitative transformation, the pleasure was indescribable, more exhilarating than playing role-playing online games, which is no wonder so many martial artists could seclude themselves for years on end. Meanwhile, the three girls also reached the 40th stage with his help. Once they crossed this threshold, they could consider breaking through to the innate realm. The three spiritual sparrowhawks had not undergone significant changes in size, and now measured 3.5 meters in length with a wingspan exceeding 7 meters. However, they suddenly developed a preference for cooked food, insisting that the meat had to be grilled to medium rare. This change was the result of evolution in their brains, not a bad thing at all. But the one who changed the most was definitely Arya. The treatment the young girl now received was even better than that of the 7 disciples of Wu Dang, the true inheritors of the sect. Every day, she consumed the highest quality supplements and had masters of the spirit refinement and out-of-body technique assist her with massage and acupressure, offering guidance in her cultivation. At this moment, she even had to consider advancing to the marrow cleansing realm. On the second day of the second lunar month, the day of Dragon Head's raising, Liu Yao had just finished massaging the 3 spiritual sparrowhawks when Liaoya and Suarya came over. The master and disciple duo were beaming with joy, clearly having some great news. Liaoya spoke first. Apprentice brother, Arya is going to break through to the marrow cleansing realm. Upon hearing this, Liu Yao quickly extended his hand to check Suarya's condition, and nodded with satisfaction, good, your foundations are very solid. You're only 13 years old, right? Such talent is indeed rare. Suarya courteously bowed with clasped hands, it's all thanks to the cultivation from master and honored uncle, without it, I would definitely not have made it. Liu Yao said with a smile, no need for modesty, you truly possess exceptional talent and you are also diligent and hardworking. You and your master have practically monopolized the training ground. Liaoye, standing on the side, watched with a smile. She would normally say a few words to encourage study, to prevent her disciple from becoming arrogant. But later she found that the young girl was very sensible and there was no need for such words. Suarya, feeling proud from the praise given by her honored uncle, suddenly felt 3 malicious gazes upon her. Looking up, she saw it was those 3 flat-haired beasts. In front of their parents, there was nothing they could do, so the youngsters could only engage in a fierce clash of gazes, staring each other down. At that moment, Liu Yao said, starting from today, come to me every morning and evening for massage and acupressure. I'll strive to help you break through within a week. Upon hearing this, Suarya smiled broadly, thank you, honored uncle. She looked extremely happy, knowing that once her realm caught up, she could help her honored uncle with even more things. And Arya was even happier because she genuinely enjoyed spending time with her honored uncle. On normal days, she could only exchange a few words with him, but now she could finally have her wish fulfilled. With a young girl about to break through her realm needing care, Liu Yao became even busier. Luckily, Suarya was adorable and clever, sweet-talking her honored uncle into high spirits with her pleasing manners. Furthermore, watching over Suarya's breakthrough reminded him of his own past experiences, providing him with an opportunity for reflection and new insights. As time reached the 7th day, Arya's inner breath finally penetrated deep into her bones to cleanse her marrow, advancing her to the marrow cleansing realm. A 13-year-old achieving the marrow cleansing realm would be considered a heaven-sent prodigy in any sect or noble family. Liu Yao was very gratified. The young girl, to whom he had taken quite a liking, had not let anyone down. After regulating her breath, Suarya bowed deeply, thank you for your cultivation, honored uncle. Liu Yao helped her up, laughing, Arya, we needn't stand on such ceremony between us. The marrow cleansing is a major realm, your honored uncle should give you a gift. Come with me. He led the expectant young girl to the storage room, and said, go ahead, your honored uncle has already prepared your gift. The girl walked in and saw a fierce and domineering humanoid mecha, equipped with a terrifying fire god cannon on its shoulder. This was Liu Yao's own mecha, which had become somewhat redundant for him, perfect for gifting to Suarya for her use, significantly enhancing her combat power. You recognize this thing, don't you? Disciple recognizes it, it's Uncle Liao Qi's mecha, I even helped to maintain it. That lazy girl. Liu Yao laughed, Arya, from now on this mecha is yours, hurry and try it on. Arya's face flushed with excitement, touching it curiously all over, and then quickly realizing she should thank him. Thank you, honored uncle. Your great kindness, I can never repay in this lifetime. Chapter 376. Great disaster is imminent. While the family was celebrating the little girl's breakthrough, the inevitable still arrived. In mid-February, England, Rakshasa, Izumo, and 5 other countries issued a joint ultimatum, claiming to have obtained permission from their respective governments to form a united army to attack the Shun dynasty. The next day, 5 Caledon-class cruisers from Izumo entered Leizhu Bay. These vessels were the latest warships produced by Einheit, newly delivered to the Izumo Empire, now serving as the vanguard of the coalition forces of the major powers. With Einheit's support, the Izumo Navy had already regained its vitality. In stark contrast, the Genhai naval forces had not received the funding, and the heavily damaged warships were idling in the military port, still unrepaired to this day. Only a few outdated torpedo boats were left, which now completely lost the command of the sea and could only watch helplessly as the fleet entered Jinmen port. The fleet brought with it a 3,000-strong coalition army, mainly composed of troops from Einheit and Izumo, which seemed like not a large number. Lieutenant General Simo, the commander, stood on the lookout tower with a cold sneer as he looked over the bustling Jinmen port. At this moment, the commander from the Izumo side, Colonel Kawashi Minami, respectfully picked up a white porcelain teapot and said, "General Simo, would you care for some more black tea?" Simo handed over his empty cup. "Thank you." Kawashi Minami hurried forward like a servant, carefully pouring tea. Simo took a sip from his cup and praised, "A very authentic Duke's black tea, you've even added orange slices and jasmine." Kawashi Minami bowed humbly, "I once studied abroad in your country, deeply studying black tea. I'm glad the general likes it." Simo was pleased with the subservient attitude of the other party, casually holding his cup and making small talk. "Based on the intelligence provided by your spies, the foolish Shun country's imperial court is completely unprepared." A flash of cunning passed in Kawashi Minami's eyes. "After learning about our military strength, the Shun country assumed that this time, like the minor skirmishes of the past, they could muddle through by paying some war indemnity. Little do they know, their doomsday is near." When the news came that the major powers had only sent 3,000 troops to seek justice, everyone in the Shun dynasty breathed a sigh of relief, seeing this number of people as incapable of stirring much trouble. Especially after hearing that Illyria had sent only 80 soldiers, Emperor Yong'an thought he had won the day clearly. They were just here to make up the numbers. It must be that the major powers had not yet recovered from a great war and were now merely coming to extort money. With this in mind, Emperor Yong'an issued an imperial decree. "By the mandate of heaven, the emperor decrees, the foreigners have overstepped their bounds with us. Rather than living in disgrace, a stain upon our ancestors, would it not be better to fight a grand battle and determine the victor once for all?" He even ordered the Boxers and the Imperial Guards to wait for an opportunity to attack the coalition forces gathered in the Jinmen concession. Having been involved in the Eastern Gutter naval battle and the recovery of the western frontier, the whole of the Shun dynasty thought themselves capable. They were firmly convinced that after many years of massive warfare, the major powers surely wouldn't dare to fight a large-scale war, seeing it as the right time to revive national pride. But then, a series of bad news arrived. First, the major powers continued to reinforce their troops, with warships docking daily, and the number of coalition land forces alone swiftly increased to 30,000, with still more on the way. Stay tuned for updates on my virtual library empire. At the same time, from the sea, Rakshasa also launched a major offensive on the eastern 3 provinces by land, with a total force of 150,000 soldiers. The entire nation was in an uproar. Anyone could see that this was not just about extorting silver taels, it was no minor skirmish. Inside Jin Garden, the Liu Yao family was already packing up, ready to head out. Liu Yao would certainly not miss such an event and was bound to get involved. The nuclear bombs in the space-time bubble were already chomping at the bit. Li Pei recounted the intelligence she had gathered. The main force of the Allied army consists of the Rakshasa and Izumo. The Rakshasa have sent 150,000 troops, Izumo 50,000. There are also 20,000 from Einheit's ground forces, and 3,000 each from America and France. The commanders are Simo and Kawashi Minami, both of whom possess innate level combat strength. This royal lady had a husband with deep pockets, tens of thousands of silver taels were at her disposal. She used it to rebuild the intelligence network with Zhongjin and other children born to the family, gathering detailed information. Liu Yao commented, "With such a massive deployment, the colonial powers must have great ambitions." Li Pei nodded seriously. In the last World War, the losses of the colonial powers exceeded imagination. Even an old power like Einheit, with colonies all over the world, couldn't hold up. The Rakshasa and Izumo have suffered several defeats and are on the verge of collapse internally. These two nations have long coveted divine land, and by deploying the full might of their nations in this attack, they clearly intend to completely consume us. Liu Yao scoffed, "It's perfect timing, our stock of blood cores is running low. Let them come so we can ensure they have no return." Li Pei expressed her concern, "My lord, this time we are dealing with the regular armed forces of the colonial powers, with advanced weaponry and numerous experts. Please, do not take them lightly." "Don't worry, I'm aware." Liu Yao believed himself to be well prepared. Even if the enemy could produce a golden body realm powerhouse, he still had nuclear weapons at his disposal. His nuclear bomb had a yield of 150,000 tons, with the high temperature fireball radius of the nuclear explosion vaporizing everything within approximately 600 meters, and the blast radius just over a kilometer. Within 1 kilometer of the explosion's epicenter, Liu Yao was confident that even if it didn't kill a Golden Body Realm enemy outright, it would still inflict severe damage. Then, he could use other methods to execute them across borders. It was an exhilarating prospect. At that moment, Liaoya interrupted his musings. "Junior brother, everything's ready." Behind her was Sua Area. The young girl had undergone marrow cleansing and couldn't just stagnate at home all day. In these times, she needed to experience the battlefield, so she was to accompany them on this expedition. It was Aria's first time traveling far from home, and she was to ride the spiritual sparrowhawk, with which she normally didn't get along well. She seemed a bit nervous at the moment. Liu Yao comforted her gently, "Don't be afraid. You'll ride with me on Pingan. It won't dare to bully you." The young girl obediently nodded her head. Then, everyone mounted the spiritual sparrowhawk together. Pingan showed a human-like displeasure on its face when it saw Sua Area climb on its back. However, since its master was also there, it couldn't act out and could only flap its wings agitatedly, causing a strong wind that blew dust and stones all around the courtyard. Aria sat contentedly behind Liu Yao, her little hands clutching her uncle's clothing tightly until the knuckles turned white. Liu Yao reminded her, "Use the Eve Dragon stake to stabilize your body, it's also part of the training." "I understand," the girl promptly did so. The spiritual sparrowhawk spread its wings and soared into the sky, taking the family towards the Jingjian area. Meanwhile, in Jinmen, Lieutenant General Simo looked at the telegram in his hand and smirked. "Jihad has agreed to all the ceasefire agreements. Duke Heger will personally come to handle the matters of the Shun dynasty." Kawashima Nami bowed and said, "My mentor will also arrive as promised, and together with the dukes from the Rakshasa and Minis, we'll have a total of 4 golden body level forces. We will surely be able to completely carve up the Shun dynasty." The vampire duke on par with martial artists of the golden body realm, and in the same realm, the more numerous and cunning vampires would have a slight advantage. Simo licked the sharp fangs in his mouth, murmuring lowly, "This will be a grand feast." Kawashima Nami laughed, "Your side receives fresh blood and souls, while we gain land of fair trade." Chapter 377. Cannon Attack and Kill. The Yichuan movement initiated by Fu Fangsheng spread across the nation in less than 3 months, with countless followers rising up across the great rivers, north and south. The group had grown immensely by today, and in addition to the original goal to hunt demons and monsters without regard for fame or fortune, many from all walks of life had joined as well. The mix of good and bad characters, of varying qualities, left Fu Fangsheng merely a nominal leader. He didn't concern himself with others. When the great powers invaded aggressively, he immediately brought people to aid in the battle. Yu Yanmei was also there, and the two planned to lead the passionate martial artists to cooperate with the government forces to strike the invaders. At this moment, they stood on high ground, gazing at the British Indian Expeditionary Force marching in the distance. This time the military force numbered about 3,000, all clad in khaki field uniforms, with military boots made of Tianzu leather. Equipped luxuriously, with machine guns and cannons of all sorts, they even had 2 Matilda infantry tanks. These tanks appeared 20 years ahead of their time, fitted with 40mm automatic Bofors guns on their turrets. Equivalent to a supersized Maxim gun, except with such a large caliber it was called a cannon. Its immense power and full automaticity posed a huge threat to martial artists. A vampire officer leaned out from the commander's hatch. Judging by the insignia on his sleeve, he was a major. He was continually issuing orders, directing the entire army to march south. Fu Fangsheng and Yu Yanmei observed the 2 steel monsters with a mix of curiosity and caution. They had only seen them in newspapers before, this was the first time encountering them in person. Both their martial intuition and divine sense perception were alerting them that these machines were not to be trifled with. Both had their doubts about the movements of the coalition forces of the great powers. Why are the foreigners heading south? Could it be they plan to attack Texas? Perhaps they want to pressure the imperial court into signing a treaty and extort reparations. After a brief discussion, they temporarily set aside their concerns, deciding to first wipe out this group of foreigners. After a brief communication to establish a battle plan, Fu Fangsheng and Yu Yanmei were ready to take the initiative and strike, leading the charge as always. Behind them stood 500 martial artists with looks of respect. They greatly admired the gallant conduct of their 2 leaders. It was not that martial artists became braver the higher their realm, on the contrary, the higher the realm, the more they valued their lives. With great power, long life, and joyful days, who would willingly risk their life? Moreover, sustaining too many injuries and lingering hidden trauma was detrimental to breaking through to higher realms. Therefore, going into battle was something that, unless enticed with great profit, one could not expect high-level martial artists to risk their lives for. This has been true throughout history, in China and abroad. Nowadays, with the foreigners' weapons becoming more advanced, everyone sympathized with the risk, especially when considering the Bofors gun mounted on the tanks. They were terrified. Such a weapon could even kill those of the innate realm, boasting the nickname Immortal's Tool for slaying immortals. Yet Fu Fangsheng and Yu Yanmei showed no fear, leading the attack fearlessly at the forefront of every battle. Find your next read at my virtual library Empire. Such people truly deserved the title of hero. Just as everyone was ready and about to launch the ambush, Yu Yanmei furrowed her brows. Wait a moment. She then took a maple leaf crafted vermilion bird from her waist, which was Liu Yao's mind resonance item. The vermilion bird moved twice as if alive, turned its head to look at the two and then spoke. Grandmaster Yu, Brother Fu, meeting like this is an unexpected pleasure. You're here too. Fu Fangsheng laughed. Brother Liu, haven't seen you for many days, your speed of breaking through is truly astonishing. Yu Yanmei asked, Liu Zizi, are you nearby? She was right, because Liu Yao wouldn't have sent a message at this time if he hadn't seen them through aerial eyes. Yes, I'm nearby, about to bombard the coalition forces of the great powers with big guns. Pay attention to blocking their retreat, don't let them escape. Ah! Fu Fangsheng and Yu Yanmei hadn't reacted yet when suddenly they heard a sharp whistling sound tearing through the sky from afar. The British Indian Army also heard the noise. Quick to react, they instantly recognized the sound of high-speed incoming cannonballs and hastily ducked or hid behind the tanks. The next moment, a 155mm cannonball, moving at supersonic speed, descended from the sky and hit the turret of a Matilda tank with precision. In the midst of a thunderous roar that shook the earth, dazzling flames and a shockwave swept everything away. The tank shattered on the spot into pieces, flinging debris such as rocks and clumps of earth in all directions. Dozens of soldiers were sent flying through the air by the shrapnel, becoming a mess of flesh, and even a few knights in steel armor were not spared, though their bodies retained a roughly human shape. After the dust had settled, a huge crater 2 meters deep and 5 meters wide appeared on the field, with no living thing within a 60-meter radius. Panic and screams filled the air, along with confusion. Why were they being bombarded by fortress artillery in the middle of nowhere? But within less than 5 seconds, another 155mm cannonball descended with a terrifying screech. This shell, produced by the northern industry of Xia country, hit the second tank with precision. The scene from before was repeated. The shockwave blasted tank fragments and dirt in all directions, instantly smashing any living tissue into chunks. Among them, a vampire officer escaped as a streak of blood, instantly appearing in front of his own spirit-refining gunner. He grabbed the gunner's collar and demanded, "Have you found the direction the shell came from? Fire back immediately." The spirit-refining gunner was also charged with the duty of deducing the enemy's artillery position from the trajectory of the incoming shells. At that moment, he was constantly calculating with pen and paper, but the look on his face grew more and more incredulous. "According to my calculations, that shell was fired from 30 kilometers away. How is that possible?" At the time, if a cannon had a range of over 10 kilometers, it was considered long range, and whether a shot would hit was left to fate. But facts spoke louder than words. No matter how the spirit-refining gunner calculated, he arrived at the same answer. One after another, 155 cannonballs fell with terrifying screams, targeting wherever there were more people, striking those with good agility. In an instant, a deafening series of explosions sounded, and the horrific shockwaves shredded everything, tossing earth, stones, and limbs up to the height of a 7 or 8-story building. Frequently, as people ran, they would catch the blur of flesh that was once a human being, and some were even stunned by the explosions, sprinting in the wrong direction in a daze. The intense explosions suppressed even the screams and shouts on the field, and the British Indian Expeditionary Force crumbled without even seeing their enemy. They scattered like headless flies, attempting to escape the terrifying artillery fire. However, they ran headlong into Yu Yanmei and Fu Fangsheng, who were waiting at the ready. Having witnessed the entire ordeal, someone couldn't help but exclaim, "The artillery strikes of a spirit-refining expert are truly terrifying." Another curiously asked, "Who is coming?" "It must be Master Liu from Yunzhou." At this very moment, Liu Yao and his family were on a small hill 30 kilometers away. Upon spotting the British Indian Expeditionary Force, he immediately got out the 155 howitzer from his space-time bubble and fired at them. Although the distance was great, Liu Yao had mastered spirit refinement and out-of-body technique. He previously could control paper cranes, but now, he could imbue every cannonball with mind force, automatically locking onto the enemy. The cannon rightfully earned the title of God of War, as a single shell would annihilate half a football field of life, ensuring certain death for anyone below the innate level, perfect for the situation at hand. Aside from the first 2 shots fired by Liu Yao himself, the rest were operated by the girls, with Sua Arya handling the final shots. Her little face was flushed, her expression serious as she diligently learned about artillery. My realm in spirit refinement is only focused spirit, and my aim isn't accurate enough. I need to work harder on spirit refinement. Only then can I be of more help to Uncle Master, she thought. While the young girl was reflecting on her performance, Liu Yao said, "The enemy has been completely wiped out, let's go check on Grandmaster Yu and the others." Upon meeting, Fu Fangsheng approached with warmth, clasping arms in conversation. "Brother Liu, long time no see. Your breakthroughs in both the martial path and spirit refinement are truly enviable." He was still the same pale and frail-looking man with a handsome baby face, but his experiences had sharpened his bearing considerably. Behind him were Zhao Sanduo and Monk Benming, dusty and a bit weary from their journey, but in good spirits as they came forward to greet everyone. After exchanging pleasantries, they all set off for the imperial city to settle down. Chapter 378. The situation reversed. Jinmen, squads of Allied forces soldiers were assembling as they moved through the streets. Many citizens stood by, watching. Most wore numb expressions, while others used small carts to transport goods for the invaders to earn a little money to sustain themselves. As one of the first batch of open trading ports, Jinmen was scattered with concessions, and people had grown accustomed to the presence of foreigners and had learned how to deal with them to some extent. To these commoners, war seemed like a matter between the imperial court and the foreigners, irrelevant to their own lives. Only they thought today's foreigners were dressed particularly formally. Not only were their uniforms new, but their faces were washed exceptionally clean. Commander Simo was also present, indicating some important occasion was at hand. Soon, the answer was revealed. In the direction of the harbor, the sky suddenly darkened, obscured by a thick cloud of ominous black. That ink-like dark cloud slowly drew together, and all the Allied forces soldiers quickly knelt on one knee. Simo knelt on one knee and shouted, "We welcome the venerable Duke Heger. Your presence is the supreme honor of this ignorant and savage land." Accompanying his words, a figure flew out from the midst of the dark clouds, hovering in the air. This person was dressed in a khaki high-necked trench coat and cast a faint glance at the troops who had come to greet him, the look in his eyes as cold as solid ice. The ordinary people on the ground had a drastic reaction to seeing him. Those below the organ-refining realm felt short of breath and their heartbeats irregular, and the frail among them simply collapsed to the ground. Vampire dukes are on par with martial artists of the Golden Body realm. Additionally, it's commonly believed that within the same realm, the more numerous and peculiar methods of vampires give them a slight edge. At this moment, Kawashi Minami's heart was greatly shaken. Duke Einheit Douglas Haig. His mere presence is enough to make mortals avert their eyes. This demon's power is formidable. I wonder if my master can handle it. Such a powerful aura, this won't be easy to deal with, he thought. As he pondered, a voice suddenly came from behind him. Turning around, he saw a small old man had appeared behind him without his notice, despite him being an innate expert. Kawashi Minami immediately stood up straight and bowed, saying, "Mas. Commander." This little old man was dressed in black feather garb and was at most 1.5 meters tall. He appeared to be around 70 years old, with white hair and beard, yet his skin was as smooth as a baby's. This was the commander of the Izumo Contingent's dispatch army, Fukushima Ansei. Kawashi Minami asked, "What should we do next? Please instruct." Fukushima Ansei's eyes narrowed into slits as he spoke. The nations have reached a consensus to bring down the Shun dynasty, dismember it into 6 countries, and turn it completely into a colony. Vampires urgently need fresh blood and souls, and they will get the populations of the Jing-Jinji region and the eastern 3 provinces. And our country will occupy most of the northern land of the Shun dynasty. The fertile soils free from typhoons, tsunamis, and earthquakes will be the starting point for the rise of the Izumo Empire. Nami, this will be an expansion unprecedented in history. Even if it costs us our lives, we must fight this battle well. Kawashima Nami, exhilarated, flushed red and shouted loudly, "Yes, sir." He knew full well that his country was just a small set of islands, and the entire nation coveted the fertile lands of the Shun dynasty. While the two from Izumo were discussing, Duke Heger floating in the air showed a flash of impatience on his face and stretched out his hand, violently clenching it towards the civilians of the Shun dynasty who were watching the commotion. A ripple of distortion spread out, and the civilians suddenly contorted in extreme pain before a sizzle was heard, and all the blood in their bodies burst forth. Nearly 10,000 spectators on the scene turned into mummified corpses, and a giant blood sphere formed in the air. The blood sphere slowly drifted towards Duke Heger, who consumed it as a whale drinks in water. Seeing this scene, the lucky survivors who hadn't died cried out for their parents and fled in all directions. Duke Heger looked much more relaxed after drinking the blood. "Soldiers, pick up your weapons, seize the barbarian capital, countless treasures and women await our enjoyment. Do not show the slightest cowardice or mercy, the Queen is watching over us." With just simple encouragement, the bandits' morale instantly soared. Afterward, Duke Heger's blood shadow flashed, and he appeared instantly beside Fukushima Ansei. His icy voice seemed to freeze the bones. "Has Miss Mary from America not arrived yet?" Fukushima Ansei nodded and bowed, showing none of the demeanor of a golden body expert, and smiled as he spoke. "Mary Johnson came to the Shun dynasty due to personal matters. Although she will lend a hand, she will not be seen with us too much." "Personal matters? What are they?" "It appears her pet died in the Shun dynasty, killed by an expert named Liu Yao." Upon hearing the word pet, a clear look of disgust flashed across Duke Heger's face, and then he departed without a word. The obsequious expression on Fukushima Ansei's face vanished, and he became serious again. "It seems this demon beast will not leave a single survivor. Nami, you must act fast. Win over the talents from the Shun dynasty to facilitate our subsequent rule." Kawashima Nami nodded heavily and prepared according to the list provided by the spies. The news of the Allied forces having 4 golden body level powers spread throughout the land, north and south of the Great River, and the entire world in an instant. Upon receiving the news, countless nobles were so shocked they were at a loss for words. At this moment, Emperor Yong'an's face was as white as a sheet, and he could only stand steady with the support of eunuch Cao beside him. Emperor Yong'an was not only shocked but also found it somewhat ludicrous. Because he had gotten the news from the newspaper. The Prime Minister's office and the Military Affairs Department are all useless. They are even less informed than the newspapers. At this time, eunuch Cao hurriedly comforted him. "Your Majesty, do not panic. The enemy has only 4 golden body level experts. The Imperial Court has 4 great Grand Masters, and there are also masters among the sects and noble families. We will not be scared of the Allied forces." Emperor Yong'an took a deep breath to calm himself and said with a trembling voice. "Issue a royal summon, urgently calling for the great Grand Masters to come to the Imperial City to defend the throne, as well as the provincial governors, martial arts sections in short, summon everyone we can. And change my attire, I must see the Empress Dowager. Stay connected through my virtual library empire." The situation had turned, with the signs of an impending storm all around. The Imperial City began to panic, with many people packing their belongings and contemplating fleeing with their families. But there were also many who remained confident the land of Divine Land had countless experts. How could they be afraid of 4 invading demon beasts? Particularly as Left Minister was the first to rush back from the distant western frontier, the booming sound caused by the Grand Master breaking the sound barrier was so reassuring to hear. It even lessened the impact of the news that Jinmen had been massacred. Foreign media reported it first, followed by translations and reprints in domestic newspapers. The Allied forces rampaged, looting and slaughtering at will. Jinmen, with a population of 1 million, was left with only 100,000 alive. The once flourishing and luxurious lands had been transformed into a wasteland of rubble, bodies piled up like mountains and corpses in the high river clogged the flow. By this time, 2 full days had passed since Emperor Yong'an had issued the royal summon, but only Left Minister, a great Grand Master, had returned. Great Grand Masters could travel at speeds of 400 km per hour and could even break the sound barrier when in a burst of speed, making any location in the vast world accessible. If they had not returned by now, it meant they were not coming. Chapter 379, The Emperor and Empress Hunt in the West. Imperial City. Seeing that only Zhou Gong had returned among the great Grand Masters, People's hearts were fluttering to the extreme, and even the imperial guards guarding the imperial city were panicked and uneasy. More and more people were packing up their valuables and preparing to flee, leaving this city about to erupt in war. Along the road, there were people supporting the elderly and carrying young, whole families dragged along, as well as rich families in horse-drawn carriages and even powerful clans in automobiles. At this time, there was still some order, although they were leaving their homes and their faces showed sorrow, they were not in a state of constant panic. But just then, those who had fled earlier came back in a terrible state, covered in blood, bringing a devastating piece of news. The Texas and Shimen area to the south had been occupied by the coalition forces of the great powers. To the north, Rakshas's army of 150,000 had taken Shanhaiguan, and the defending general Zhou Baogui had committed suicide for his country. In other words, the routes for ordinary people to escape had all been cut off. This threw everything into complete chaos, with countless people running around like headless flies. They didn't know what to do and simply wanted to instinctively flee the imperial city, but there were so many people that they ended up blocking the gates, creating total disarray. When Liu Yao and his family arrived, they witnessed this scene of evacuation. This was Yongding Gate, the main thoroughfare for entering and exiting the imperial city from the south. The crowd was pushing and shoving, screaming and shouting, and it looked like a serious stampede was about to happen. Li Pei quickly leapt onto the city wall and mustered his inner breath to bellow. "Quiet down! What's the panic for? The foreigners are not so easily going to storm the imperial city." With Zhou Gong and the Empress Dowager inside, and the 3 great Grand Masters and the 10 provincial governors' relief armies outside, don't fall into disarray and give the demon beasts an advantage. His shout carried for miles, making the ears of those nearby buzz, and farther away, a flock of birds took flight in alarm. His words were logical and convincing, and the crowd's panic gradually subsided. Li Pei gracefully descended from the city wall, dignified and composed as she left Yongding Gate with her husband. Once they were away from the crowd, Li Pei's collected demeanor vanished, and worry showed on her delicate and fair face. Liu Yao patted his wife's shoulder to comfort her, then fell into deep thought. He too was somewhat vexed. He had thought his preparations were sufficient, but he didn't expect the coalition forces of the great powers to bring 4 golden body-level combatants all at once. If this were a novel, the enemies would definitely trickle in one by one like the Gord brothers saving their grandfather, allowing the protagonist to reveal his trump card and slay them, exuding an invincible style. But reality did not give any such opportunity, it was an all-out blow without holding back. Moreover, the coalition forces were composed of elite troops, and there was no shortage of innate level experts among them. Plus the various advanced war machines, it was a very difficult battle to fight. Liu Yao pondered over the cards he had in his hand, but even against 4 golden body level opponents they did not seem of much use. He could not even guarantee that a nuclear bomb could successfully eliminate one. At that moment, Liao Qi quietly tugged at Liu Yao's sleeve and asked softly, "Do you have a plan this time?" The 3 sisters looked at him all at once, their eyes clear as autumn waters, filled with hope and not blinking an eye. Liu Yao took a deep breath and smiled, "Don't worry, your husband I." Before he could finish, a few newsboys shouted a few sentences, and the crowd that had calmed down again began to seethe. Liu Yao stopped a newsboy to buy a newspaper, and it was yet another piece of bad news. The 10 provincial governors, including the 3 great Grand Masters, were publicly defying Emperor Yong'an's decree to support the royal cause. The newspaper clearly stated, "To preserve the civilization that has lasted for thousands of years and to maintain international diplomatic relations and peace, the 10 provincial governors do not recognize the false commands issued by the Boxers and have reached the Southeast Protection Pact with the participating countries of the war, refusing to head north to support the royals." The article made clear, under the call of Great Grand Master Zhang Wenda, the provincial governors had struck peace agreements with the invading powers, seeking self-preservation, and even proclamations of independence. The powers would not drain the pond to catch the fish, especially England that had huge interests in the various treaty ports of South China. Several consuls had already sent urgent telegrams to the Queen, claiming any turmoil in the Yangtze River basin would cause enormous losses. They also pointed out if the treaty ports were damaged, it would lead to the most severe disaster. Therefore, for the sake of protecting their interests and desiring not to trigger too fierce a resistance, under the leadership of Einheit, the great powers simply signed the Southeast Protection Pact. But this also meant that the imperial city would be utterly without reinforcements. It had become a place of desperation. Li Pei flipped through the newspaper time and time again, still not daring to believe. How dare they? This is treason. This is... Liu Yao wrapped his arms around his younger sister's fragrant shoulders, soothing her gently, Pai Pei, don't panic, I'm here. Leaning into her husband's embrace, Li Pei's eyes, which were normally bright and astute, were now dim and lusterless. 4 golden body-level demon beasts, what are we to do? Liao Ya's gentle voice spoke up, Sister Li, with the Grand Master and the Empress Dowager here, plus us, we might still be able to hold the Imperial City. Forbidden City. As catastrophe loomed, Emperor Yong'an hastily requested an audience with the Empress Dowager. Be it the Heavenly Demon or the Demon Empress, after all, she was one of the top fighters of the Shun dynasty's royal family. At such a critical juncture, it was time to rely on her. However, Emperor Yong'an was denied entry twice in a row, blocked by the great eunuch and Dihei and not allowed to proceed. The Empress Dowager is unwell, Your Majesty, please return. As the situation deteriorated, the barely 20-year-old Emperor Yong'an couldn't keep his composure any longer. Fretting like an ant on a hot pan, he shouted in the direction of Changchun Palace. Empress Dowager. The situation is as precarious as a pile of eggs. If you do not show yourself now, we may not be able to turn the tide. After shouting these words, Emperor Yong'an was ushered out by several eunuchs. He struggled persistently, and at that moment, a dignified female voice came from within the palace, let the emperor come in. No longer obstructed by the eunuchs, Emperor Yong'an brisked up his sleeves and quickly stepped into Changchun Palace. Inside, numerous palace maids and eunuchs were busy packing. The beloved items of the Empress Dowager were carefully and orderly put away. The scene was hectic yet not chaotic. But this was clearly about preparing to flee, no different from the outside crowd trying to escape. Looking at the graceful woman seated before him, Emperor Yong'an said in disbelief, You're leaving? You're going to abandon the countless people and run away? The Empress Dowager scoffed, We're facing 4 notorious powerhouses. A cripple like me, halfway into the coffin along with Grandmaster Zhou, can hardly afford to take the risk and engage in battle. Emperor Yong'an's face turned beet red as he shouted, You have enjoyed the sustenance of the world, how can you simply flee at the first sign of trouble, you? But before he could finish speaking, he fell to the ground, unable to continue. The Empress Dowager just coldly glanced at him, and the agitated emperor lost the ability to speak, even struggling to stand properly. What a joke! You actually expect me to risk my life for mere mortals against demon beasts? I have come so far, enduring so much hardship and exhaustion. The late emperor was scared to the point of wetting himself at a mere glance from the 8 senior ministers of the imperial edict, and it was I who painstakingly maintained our realm. Having finally reached this point, with good days still ahead, how could I fall here? If someone must risk their life, let Zoujikan do it himself, he's not long for this world anyway. At that moment, the great eunuch and Dihei appeared and reported, Empress Dowager, everything is ready. The Empress Dowager inquired, Are all the treasures from the imperial vault packed safely? Rest assured, I have personally overseen it, ensuring there will be no issues. Only then did the Empress Dowager nod her head before saying to the disoriented Emperor Yong'an, You are still young and there's no need for you to stay here and be buried along with the rest. Having suffered humiliation, it would also bring shame to your ancestors, come with me. Emperor Yong'an obediently replied, Your son will not leave. The Chongzhen emperor of the previous dynasty fulfilled his promise of dying with his state, and your son also wants to. But his words were cut off again by the Empress Dowager's impatient interruption, I'm not asking for your opinion. Your presence will be needed in opening the gates of the mausoleum of the first emperor. Follow me to Chang'an. With that, a bright light shot from the Empress Dowager's forehead and into the brain of Emperor Yong'an. Emperor Yong'an's body immediately became obedient, following meekly behind the Empress Dowager, even though his facial expressions continuously changed, as if he were struggling. The demon beasts will likely arrive soon, we shall set off immediately. Issue an edict to Zoujikan, the Emperor and Empress shall proceed westward to hunt, ensure the safety of the imperial city. Chapter 380, Is that all? Fortune never comes in pairs, and misfortunes never come singly. One piece of bad news followed another, and now even the Emperor and Empress had gone on a western hunt. What use could Prime Minister Zhou alone possibly be? With the news spreading, no one held any more hope for the imperial court. Great Xia was on the brink of collapse, countless ants despaired and wailed, their ugliness on full display. But Liu Yao had not given up yet. His family was still living in the Xiangshan Jingyi garden. Within the scenic garden, he began a desperate absorption of the willing energy stored in the offering vessel, and in just one day, he took in the amount equal to millions of people. This speed was indeed too fast, fiercer even than the Empress Dowager during the longevity feast. Even with the ice jade bracelet and the dragon pattern mirror, he couldn't offset such binging. Liu Yao suddenly felt as if he had been thrown into a blender, constantly reeling. Although it was unbearable, there was no other way. No matter how much one cheated on the martial path, it was impossible to advance to the leak-free state in just a few short days. Physical cultivation required patience and endurance, gorging oneself in one breath would not make one fat, and positive mutation needed time. Moreover, even if he became leak-free, it wouldn't help the current situation. So, he had to rely on spirit refinement. Willing energy was endless, and as long as he ascended to the divine manifestation, there was hope. Hong Rongkan had previously relied on the gathering of the believer's willing energy for a brief divine manifestation to make Grandmaster Zheng jump into the river. Divine manifestation would certainly provide the combat power to match the golden body realm. But the current problem was that he had yet to reach soul manifestation, so no matter how much he absorbed, he couldn't achieve divine manifestation in a short time, so he still had to think of other methods. At this moment, the three younger sisters saw their husband worrying and came over to help massage him. The two sisters helped massage his feet. Liu Yao took a long breath and asked, "How's the situation?" The three sisters looked at each other, and Li Pei spoke up. "The foreigners have completed the encirclement and will launch a total assault at any time. Prime Minister Zhou has widely distributed the hero invitation, calling for heroes from all over the world to come to the nation's aid, but few have responded, with only a small number of lower-level martial artists daring to offer their help." Liao Qi interjected, "Not just that, the martial artists in the capital are each showing their skills in fleeing for their lives, and some have even defected to Izumo, which is truly shameless." The atmosphere became somewhat silent, but such is human nature, not everyone can face death without fear. Liu Yao was about to say something, but he suddenly laughed, "There are still people who are not afraid of death." No sooner had he finished speaking than Yu Yanmei and Fu Fangsheng approached. And with them came many others, including Daoist Zhou He and Master Wu Jing of Fawa Temple. "Young friend, long time no see." Old Daoist Zhou chuckled, wearing a stylish pair of sunglasses, looking quite trendy. With the help of the life creation pill, his eyes were slowly healing and he felt somewhat shy about meeting people, so he dressed like that. Liu Yao laughed, "Old Taoist, when others are fearful of getting involved, why do you push forward so boldly?" Zhou He said generously, "If one shrinks back at a time like this, what's the point in cultivating?" "Right, Master Wu Jing." Amitabha, Master Wu Jing of Fawa Temple also said, "Subduing demons and eliminating evil is the duty of those who have renounced worldly life." This statement sounded familiar, and everyone smiled knowingly upon hearing it. Liu Yao remembered the master's disciple was the very monk bound by fate. The catchphrase of the master and disciple was exactly the same, and both were present in the garden at this moment. After that, Zhou He introduced all the martial artists who had come to resist the invaders. There were nearly 100 of these martial artists, coming from all over the land, from every sect and walk of life. They gathered around Yu Yanmei and others who were high in cultivation and renown, wishing to lend a hand. The lowest among these people was only at organ refining, but Liu Yao didn't mind and greeted each one with a clasped fist. Their courage and spirit at such a time were admirable. After exchanging pleasantries for a while, everyone dispersed, leaving only Zhou He and a few others behind. At this moment, they were all friends gathered in the arena, there was no need for concern. Zhou He's expression became solemn, and he sighed deeply. When the hero invitation was widely issued by the imperial court, I had hoped that members from the Holy Lotus sect, the Joyful sect, and the Kunlun sect of the Golden Body realm would come to our aid, even if just to show face. But not only have they not come, they've instead, sigh. Li Pei quietly explained to Liu Yao. It turned out that these sects not only did not come to help, but instead took advantage of the situation to profit. For example, the Joyful sect began recruiting disciples aggressively, picking many good family girls who normally would never have been considered. Considering his own plans, Liu Yao knew that this was not the time for courtesies, he asked directly. "Grandmaster Zhou, I need all the information about the divine manifestation of the Holy Realm." His words not only surprised Zhou He but also Yu Yanmei and Fu Fangsheng. "Liu Zizi, what are you trying to do? Are you going to force a breakthrough into the divine manifestation?" "Young friend, spirit refinement is no joking matter, rash actions can leave you a fool." Liu Yao confidently and firmly said, I know what I'm doing. At this critical juncture, I have no choice but to go all out. Everyone, please trust me." The others exchanged glances. Having known each other for a long time and been through much together, they of course had absolute trust in Liu Yao. Zhou He nodded and said, "Then I shall impart everything Wudang sect knows about the divine manifestation to you. In times of emergency, I believe my nominal older brother will have nothing to say." No sooner had he spoken than he called out "Go!" His divine soul actually left his body, beginning a mental communion with Liu Yao. The two appeared to be like devices transferring data to each other. In the blink of an eye countless pieces of knowledge were copied complete with image data. With this, plus the bitter cultivation and enlightenment sutra, as well as having witnessed how the Empress Dowager made her breakthrough during the longevity feast, Liu Yao now had no more doubts about the holy divine manifestation. Zhou He's divine soul returned to his body, still feeling uneasy, he repeatedly cautioned. "Young friend Liu, no matter the support you have, you must be extremely cautious with spirit refinement. You are still young, do not let impulsiveness lead you astray. Perhaps, it would be wiser to plan for the long term." Liu Yao laughed heartily and said, "Grandmaster Zhou, you yourself just said if we keep delaying such matters, then what's the point of cultivation?" Being educated with his own words, Zhou He could only smile ruefully, leaving everyone unable to help but smile. The young women all looked at their husband with adoration, their hearts pounding. Even Yu Yanmei's gaze towards Liu Yao was full of amazement, her ethereal and outstanding face beaming with appreciation and fondness. By evening, Zhou He and the others took their leave, each repeating their warnings to Liu Yao several times before leaving. Do not rush into things heedlessly but proceed with utmost caution. Liu Yao smiled in response and then privately asked Yu Yanmei to stay behind. After a while, the two came to a secluded grove. Under the moonlight, Yu Yanmei was shrouded in a faint mist, both real and illusionary, which made her seem even more ethereal and otherworldly, as if the moonlight were giving life to jade. "Liu Zizi, what do you want with me?" "Grandmaster Yu, I have a favor to ask," Liu Yao spoke earnestly. "If anything untoward happens, please protect Li Pei and the other two and get them away from here." Yu Yanmei's expression was inscrutable as she asked, "Is that all?" "Yes, as long as those three are safe and sound, I will have no further concerns, and I can give it my all without holding back." Liu Yao bowed deeply, "I'm counting on you." Yu Yanmei watched him for a good while before she lightly nodded her head. With the sway of her slender waist, she vanished from sight. With Yu Yanmei's promise, Liu Yao felt greatly reassured. He had the star key and wasn't afraid of facing any situation himself, he was only worried about the safety of his friends. With this arrangement, he could proceed with his plan without worries. "If you won't play by the rules and bring forth 4 bosses at once, you can't blame me for cheating then." He took a deep breath, called over 3 spiritual sparrowhawks, and set off to return to Blue Star through the opened portal.